This is not a personal vendetta, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Millionth Show. My name is James, joined once again by my co-host Henry and special guest for the Bond series, Tom. And today we are talking about Goldfinger, the third installment in the Bond franchise. Very, very excited for this episode. This is widely regarded as the best Bond film of all time, and I think really set up. It really defined where this franchise would go from then on. Obviously released in 1964, directed once again by Terence Young, starring Sean Connery. And I usually would ask you two first about your relationship with the film because I'm a generous host like that. But actually today I'm going to go first and say this is actually the first Bond film I ever saw. This is the first Bond film I saw when I was age 7. And it's one of my earliest childhood memories. I do actually clearly remember watching this as a kid. I think I was sat on a pillow on the floor sort of thing in front of the old VHS TV we used to have. And it was an unforgettable experience. In fact, it might be the first film I remember like consciously watching at the age of 7. So yeah, it's a special one for me.
Yeah, for me, honestly, I think the one childhood memory out of this was like I was too afraid to watch like the laser scene or something.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, I didn't understand movie tropes by the age of 3 or whatever. And when I came back to it, I mean, obviously, I really enjoyed this film, throughout every time I basically saw it. But for me, when I came back to it, I was like, I kind of went in thinking like, for a while I'd held the idea this is like kind of a bit overrated, kind of a bit like, a bit like the Dark Knight of James Bond almost, like. But and then when rewatching it, first of all, this does not waste any time at all, really. And it's like it is really as good as its reputation would have you believe. Like I could genuinely watch this like however many times, like 7 days a week, and it'd still be good.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very straightforward film. I think for me, this is a film where if I'm talking to someone that has never watched a Bond film other than Daniel Craig films, and they're like, "Oh, which one should I watch then?" This is the one I always point them to. Like a pre-Daniel Craig film. If you've got one chance for someone to see one Bond film before Daniel Craig films, I would always say this one. I don't know about you two, but that's how strong this film is for me in terms of its impact, not just on the Bond franchise, but I think on in films in general. This is one of the most important and significant films ever made, and I don't think that's an understatement.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
What's your relationship with Goldfinger, Tom?
Actually, it's funny you mentioned this is what you would recommend to someone who'd only seen Daniel Craig films before. I actually had the opportunity to choose who one of my friends' first Bond films was, and that indeed was From Russia with Love that I showed them. But the second one we watched was indeed Goldfinger, and his friend actually it became his favorite Bond film. We haven't seen it. We haven't seen all of them, but we have seen a lot of them actually, and this
Like,
one
including Never
reigns
Say Never Again.
supreme. Yeah.
And what about your
Yeah,
relationship with
that's
this film, Tom? I mean, was it something? I mean, for me, Goldfinger was a film I fell in love with straight away, and I've always enjoyed. Like every minute of it is great for me. I don't know if it's the same for both of you, but for me, this is just something I can always go back to. It's a reliable film. It's like Skyfall before Skyfall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
for this film. I actually went into it a bit like Henry. I went into it a bit skeptical, and I was like, this film's gonna have to prove its worth and its reputation to me. I do remember the first time first time I watched it. I remember bits of it that bits of it that were really gripping, and like I remember even watching it today. I was like, wow, and it was really suspenseful
Hmm.
towards the end, and I don't think we really got that as much in the other two so far. And yeah, I think in large part it is my relationship with it. It's good. It's like something you can watch any time of the day, sort of thing, and
Yeah.
enjoy it really.
I agree. I mean, obviously, what's interesting for me is this is Sean Connery did 6 Bond films, right? 7 if you include Never Say Never Again.
8 if you
8 if you include The Rock.
Yeah.
And this is I mean, within canon, right? This is the first. This is the only Bond film which Sean Connery's in where he doesn't face Spectre. That's always interesting to me. And I think what this film's strengths are in that, I think it has all the classic tropes of Bond. It sets a few up, but it also, like, obviously part of this show on the Millionth podcast is to rank all of the elements, or a lot of elements within the films, and stack them against each other. And with Goldfinger, at the end of the episode, we're going to do that. And I believe that not only will this finish first in a lot of categories, I would not be surprised if Goldfinger tops some of these categories all the way until we finish this series with No Time to Die. There are some real iconic elements within this film, within the Bond franchise, and overall as a film as well. I believe this will end up in our top 3. I'm sure of it. And I think you would do well to find a Bond fan that doesn't have Goldfinger in their top 3 Bond films. It's one of them which just it's a universally loved film. I think I don't think I've ever met someone that has had a bad word to say about Goldfinger.
Yeah.
As well, I think it's worth mentioning this is the first Bond film that won an Oscar. Don't know if either of you knew that. Yeah. Oscar winner for best sound effects, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's
they really hate crediting Bond with any Oscars, don't they?
Yeah, I know, man. Well, this is the first one to win one and get that sort of big recognition, so that's cool. So we open up with our classic gun barrel scene, and the pre-credit sequence is amazing in this film. This is one of my favorites, man. This is one which I go back to, largely because of the music.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The music in this film, John Barry blew it out the park, man. This is like, the soundtrack is phenomenal. And the opening is no exception, because obviously, you have this like suspenseful kind of remix of the Bond theme. We see Bond himself. He's he's swimming, and he's got the painted wooden duck on his on his helmet as like his mask, like his disguise. He goes in. He's like infiltrating some kind of like warehouse, whatever. Very cool looking sort of sci-fi kind of area, by the way. Plants a bomb in there, some plastic explosives. We get like one of the all-time classic Bond moments where and there's a lot of them in this film, but we get this one where he takes off his wetsuit and he's got his white dinner jacket underneath, bow tie, adds the red flower, it's just a classic look there, defined by Sean Connery, of course. And then, he walks into a club after planting this bomb. He's got his Rolex out. I believe this is when Rolex is introduced into Bond. We get several close-ups in the film, of course. Checks the time on his watch. Bomb goes off. And there's obviously like a belly dancer straight from Russia with Love there as well. So just as an opening, and obviously as well, we get into he obviously starts making out with this belly dancer. As he's making out with her, sees the guy come up behind him, sees the reflection in her eyeball, and they have a bit of a quick fight, which results in the guy being launched into the bathtub and then getting electrocuted when he flips toaster into there. So this is our pre-credit sequence. So I've spelt it all out there. So what are our thoughts on this?
You forgot to mention the classic, his one-off quip where it says "shocking, positively shocking."
Positively shocking. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so much just in these first 2-3 minutes in this film. It's like so just gripping straight away. Just like, wow, like this is something's happening here.
Yeah, it's like they always only use the intros eyes to just show James Bond on either an unrelated or related mission to the actual plot of the film, like to set him up for anyone who hasn't seen him before, or to introduce a villain like they did with Red Grant. And this is like,
I mean, this is an occasion where It has nothing to do with the rest of the plot. It's just that technique which was established by Shakespeare, where you you're hooked in by the first few minutes, and then they can the next 20 minutes not be so filled with action, because it like reels you in. And this is one which has nothing to do with the plot, but it's just so iconic for so many reasons. I think particularly the suit, when he takes off the suit, he's got that. I mean, that's classic Bond, isn't it?
Yeah, I think my favorite part had to be the music though.
The music is amazing. Throughout the whole film, this particular one is just so good, man.
You got anything to say about it, Tom?
It's like a real it's like a really good moment when he like lights a cigarette and it just that's the instant it blows up. It's perfectly timed.
Yeah. And I think it's worth noting as a bit of trivia here. I mean, this guy certainly deserves a shout out for the troubles he went to do that stunt when Bond throws the toaster into the bathtub.
It's a lamp, man.
Oh, okay, yeah, lamp. Sorry.
Yeah, you're thinking of it too much of stuff you see online.
Yeah, maybe. Well, anyway, this guy, the guy gets electrocuted in the bath basically, and that actually happened for real. There was like a bit of a mistake that happened on an accident on the set, and the actual stuntman got like nearly got killed. He got like I think third-degree burns from that. So that actually happened. That's like a real the guy's in real pain there. So. I think that's definitely worth mentioning, and respect for his efforts there, and certainly not forgotten.
I mean, I also
nothing.
Yeah, that reminds me as well. There are dangerous things that happen on set. I forgot if I mentioned previously, but in the previous film, in From Russia with Love, did I mention that the pilot of that helicopter almost took Sean Connery's head off?
Nearly killed Sean Connery.
Yeah, literally. Not the first time. Not the first or the last time they nearly killed him by accident.
Definitely. So yeah, shout out to that stuntman. That's putting your body on the line for sure. Obviously, we'll rank this pre-credits sequence at the end, but I do think this is one of the greats. Although there are a lot of great. I mean, I can't really think of a bad opening actually. I'm sure we'll come to them, but usually the openings are the real strengths of the Bond series, I find. And that continues with the theme song itself, Goldfinger, performed by Shirley Bassey.
Yeah.
I mean, what can we say about that?
I mean,
I listen to it even when I'm like working and stuff sometimes. It's really iconic. Yeah. It is one of like the best, most memorable Bond themes songs, I think, which it's not hard to claim.
Yeah, as well, I want to say visually speaking, at least with the credits themselves. I mean, a lot of the Bond credits are like a bit generic. You just got like, oh yeah, you got your women on them, but at least this one is like, I like it's all like gold themed at least. Like it reminds me of what happens later on in the film where there's literally someone who gets painted with gold. But like you get like I think the first thing you see is like the hand and then Gert Frobe on it. As well. It's just like footage of different things happening throughout the film, including randomly like Sean Connery just walking into an office or something. And I think there was like some like one of the cars crashing or something like that.
There's something from Russia with Love as well, like when the helicopter's chasing him down.
Yeah.
So I quite like that. That kind of gave me chills one time when I was watching. I was like, wow, like that happened.
Yeah, and obviously Shirley Bassey did so well. This song performed so well. She came back for 2 more, right?
Yeah,
so,
and another unofficial one for Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
You
I'll have
didn't
to
know
tell you.
that?
I'll have to tell you about that later.
Yeah, definitely. No, I didn't know. Henry, man, you found me Spectre by Radiohead, man. That's one of my favorite songs now. So I don't know how I've never like gone and found all these like unofficial Bond songs, but that's amazing. So yeah, I mean the theme song, and what I like about this theme song is how they do this in most films, right? But I think what I like about this one is how they use different renditions of it throughout the movie as well. I mean, there's even a part where it's like there's like a remix of the Goldfinger theme, and then it like transitions into the Bond theme as well. It's so cool. I love it when they do it. They perfect it in this one.
Yeah, John Barry working as magic in this, honestly.
Absolutely.
This film was actually
Sorry.
This song, actually, you might not know. This song was, well, so popular and iconic that License to Kill one like kind of remixed it a little bit. Like the first bars of it,
Oh
it's
yeah.
like dun, 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 just like
Oh,
Goldfinger
yeah, I
does.
see.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's
Yeah.
slightly. I really like that.
Well, what can I say? Another reason to like License to Kill.
So yeah, we get a really nice, very exotic looking opening shot over Miami, which is certainly a lot more tropical than you
Mm.
know,
It is today.
Istanbul and
Yeah. It is fun. It's funny
Yugoslavia.
going. It's funny like watching this film, and it's like when the USA was like considered like a tropical tourist destination.
Yeah, and it really captures an era there, doesn't it? I mean, this is
Yeah.
really like, I mean, we've been in Jamaica so far, and Istanbul, and more like, less advanced parts of the world, right? But this is like the swinging '60s in Miami, man. This is like very it really, like I say, it defines an era, man. And this is what we love about Bond films. They just capture the times they're in, the fashion, the women, the vibes,
The
everything.
level of back projection.
Yep.
What I really love about this scene though, and it's this film actually, and it's done again later, is this kind of montaged up place. So the camera's just panning around like this really glamorous location, and it's just playing like this 60s thing, whatever. And then they do it later when Bond's tailing Goldfinger in Switzerland, and I think that really helps for like the immersion of the film. Like,
Mm.
and yeah, I noticed that. I think it's really good.
Upon
They
this
didn't
viewing,
have that in the other one, really.
I was really taken aback by the actual scenery in this film. And some of the cinematography, the locations. I mean, obviously they were present in Doctor No and From Russia with Love, but in this one, they really like. I
Make the
really
most of
took
it.
them in. I was really experiencing them. Like it was really. They really did such an amazing job in capturing all those things. And obviously there's some more colourful locations in this film. Generally speaking. I wanted to add as well, to be fair, because we're going to be approaching these scenes now. Thinking back to what I said earlier about recommending this film to people that aren't familiar with like older Bond, what is a bit uncomfortable is some of the parts that really haven't aged well at all.
Yeah, basically just Bond with women.
Bond being like sure extremely sexist, and it's just, and that's an element which is like just really showing that's just hasn't aged well at all. I mean, there's actually quite a few incidents in this film of that happening. It's not a great look.
Yeah,
And
I think
at least Roger Moore came in and sorted it out later on with his gentlemanliness.
yeah,
Some-
right.
I think with like I think the thing with this film, I mean, the way I kind of interpreted it is like they must. It's just it seems like a testament to just how like I know popular and universal James Bond's image must have gone by that point. They were so comfortable with filming like really kind of outrageous stuff nowadays, and they just got away with it because of, I suppose, Bond mania or whatever was back then in the 60s.
Well, this is the film that really sparked Bond mania. To be fair, it's like because
Yeah.
Doctor No, From Russia, especially From Russia Love as well, they were pretty successful. But like when it comes to box office figures, this was like crazy. I mean, I'll have to ask you about that later. But
This is part of License to Quiz, right?
yeah,
Good.
but that'll come
I'm looking
later.
forward to this. By the way, Tom, you better be afraid, man. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win License to Quiz today, man. This is my time, man. I'm gonna I'm so ready. I was like, I was watching this film. I'm so burnt by the last two episodes. Now I'm like paying attention to everything, man. I'm trying to predict what Henry's gonna ask, and yeah. So, I'm ready, mate. Just so you know.
Yeah, I thought you might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say something else about the.
The location.
Oh yeah, Henry. This is a funny one as well because obviously this is released in '64, right?
Mhm.
And obviously the other film this is the other film we reviewed that wasn't Bond that was in the '60s was Batman '66. I just find it. I mean, I don't I can't verify how true this is because obviously none of us were alive in the 60s, far from it. But there's like the three B's that define the 60s: Bond, the Beatles, and Batman. Like that's what they say. So we've covered two of those bases, and I don't know if we'll ever do the Beatles.
Yeah,
But
yeah, do a music review.
yeah,
Bond covers the Beatles when he
he
runs
does.
them.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
does actually. So
they're even name dropped in this film, which is great. Um, so anyway, we're in Miami. We get to meet our new Felix Leiter, who
Nigel Farage.
I think it's fair to say he's an upgrade on the first
well,
one.
yeah, he knows he knows what clothes to wear at least.
Well, yeah, his
He's not wearing
fashion's
funny glasses.
slightly better. Yeah, that's right. This because obviously we're going to rank the Felix Leiters. This one is played by a chap called Sek Linder or Keck Linder. Oh, it's probably Sek for Cecil, so Cecil Linder.
Yeah, call me Cease.
Call me
Yeah,
Cease.
well,
Yeah,
he has ceased to play a role after this film. So
yeah.
yeah, I don't know really.
I liked his goal. I liked his Felix Leiter though. I think I liked him.
I don't know. When I think of Felix Leiter, I think of the one from Daniel Craig's
Yeah,
era. But because they very rarely are reoccurring characters, except maybe I think it's Shane Rimmer's one. I think he appears twice. I
Mhm.
think maybe, but other than that, it's like they maybe they're just expecting to get a different guy every time or something, or maybe they just can pin them down for another one. But
It's crazy how much they struggle to hold down an actor for two
yeah,
consecutive
well,
films.
Jeffrey Wright, he did them right with
Yeah,
40
man,
films.
Jeffrey Wright, he set the record straight, man. We love Jeffrey Wright here at the Millionth Show, our very own Jim Gordon as well.
Hmm.
But I like this Felix Light. We're obviously going to rank them at the end, and I think this one's one of the better Felix Lights for sure. I mean, he's part of the film, He's not just a side piece to appease Americans, He actually plays a fairly important role in
Hmm.
this film. I would say.
I think well, we'll get into that later. I think he's part of some pretty funny moments for me.
Yeah, yeah, I
Hmm.
think he is. I think he is, man. But we will get to them. This first moment where he's in is just probably the epitome of where you know society was at back then. Where Bond there, he finds Bond getting a massage from Dink, you know, and then they're gonna have a business talk, whatever. Felix is
Yeah,
there. It's like, oh
man
yeah,
talk.
hi, meet Dink, meet Felix, say goodbye, Dink, and then man talk, slaps her on the ass and sends her on her way. So
Yeah, also with that great ADR sound effect
yeah, oh yeah, because we really needed that. Yeah, that's
it's like,
just
yeah, it's like it got the I don't know how it got the Oscar for sound design, but I mean the sound design in this
yeah.
is good, but it's just they just forgot about that.
Yeah, I bet Sean Connery was enjoying those takes next to the microphone, slap a woman like that, yeah. So, not very good. Not really, didn't age well at all there. So, we've definitely moved on from those times. But it's the 60s, man. What can you
Yeah.
say?
Well, it's a nice you get a nice and early introduction of a villain again.
Yep. They didn't make us wait. So he's like, yeah, so where can I find this Goldfinger chap? And he's like, right over there. And then we get a nice close up of him. I noticed, by the way, this is the unfortunate thing that when I'm watching these films that we review, I'm watching them for the show with a very critical eye, and I'm
Yeah.
noticing things that I wouldn't normally
I
notice on
think
a
I know what you're
casual
gonna say.
viewing.
Are you gonna say that his outfits are terrible?
No, I love his outfits. Actually, I actually love them. What I was going to comment upon is that the first close up we get of Goldfinger, he's standing in front of a painting basically behind him because there are people there that just it's literally a painting. It's
Yeah,
they didn't film that particular close up on set, which just was quite funny.
that
But yeah, there you
aged
go,
pretty
60s
badly.
filming techniques.
I think I want to say here, I think the film in general takes a much lighter tone than the first two. There was it felt like they kind of knew that this was not gonna this is gonna be more of a serial thing and not just a couple of films and then that's it. So I think they kind of toned down the seriousness a bit
Yeah.
of this film, just a little bit. Because
Mhm.
in the first two, I feel like James Bond was in general a lot more in danger more often. But we'll get to that later. There's
Yeah.
moments that bring that up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have to say
it's an
this is a
interesting
bit more
point.
fantastical, really, as a
Yeah.
film. Like he like Bond. This is where Bond's really like larger than life, almost. Like
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think this scene kind of sums it up as well because Goldfinger, he's playing cards, and
yeah, with this very real hearing aid, you know.
yeah, I
Yeah, that's
love
so
this scene,
obvious.
man. It's like this is kind of where it sums up Bond, but because we've just gone from a pretty like I said, uncomfortable scene with Dink, and again he's like, okay, so he sees Goldfinger and he works out that he's like rigging this game, so he goes up to find his hotel room, just gets one of the workers from the hotel to just like unlock the door and send her on her way, and then no one, she doesn't call security or
You're,
anything, right?
Yeah, it's just like,
you're very
oh,
sweet.
yeah,
Yeah, you're very pretty.
yeah, you're
That's all
very
you need
sweet. And then
apparently
she's
to
just
break
like,
into a millionaire's apartment.
yeah, exactly. You could,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna try that, and like Mariana or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
see what
Um, and then yeah, Bond walks in and he sees he's on the balcony and there's Goldfinger's sort of girlfriend, not really escort, is actually
this is the person who he pays to be seen with him.
yeah, an escort,
Yeah,
kind of,
Jill
I guess.
Masterson.
Yeah, Jill Masterson, that's right. She goes, "Who are you?" And he goes, "Bond, James Bond," in like the best way ever, man. He's not even looking at it. He's just like walking. You get the music. It's so good, man. This is probably my favorite. Oh, I don't know. We're not going to rank the Bond James Bonds, but if we did, this would be right up there, man. And then the way he walks into that environment, the confidence he oozes, man, when he just takes over, he just screws Goldfinger, man. He's like looking through the binoculars, fucks with the speaker thing, so it like
Yeah,
deafens him
exactly.
a little bit. It's so
I
funny, man.
think it's really funny here for me is like and this is where it's just comical. It's like how can anybody be on their own merits like that bad at cards that they can only like succeed at all if they're cheating? Because when he like messes it up for Bond, like Goldfinger just immediately starts like losing like in a row, like he doesn't recover at all. There's and you can even hear it from the guy he's meant to like just
Yeah,
take
yeah,
drag under. It's just like, oh, that's more like it, and that's when there's disruption from Jill Masterson giving him instructions. So it's
Well,
just fun. It's just hilarious in a way, really. How
well, that's how they say,
silly it.
cheats never prosper. Um,
Yeah,
kind of as well though. You get like, I don't know, they did tear down Goldfinger a bit at the start. Like he's like, oh yeah, nod if you agree or understand,
yeah,
and then it's just like he doesn't. He's like nod. He's like, like the feels like triple chin, man. Like,
yeah, man. Also, this is really confusing for me. This is really strange, because just before we see Goldfinger, Leiter and Bond are talking about him, and he's like, yeah, he's actually British, which
yeah,
no chance, man. I'm wondering. I don't know this for a fact, but I kind of wonder if they kind of just added that in the script, sort of last minute, just to because there are a few elements within this that might have been because I think Goldfinger is meant to be either French or German, really, right? Or a bit of
yeah. I
both.
mean, he's based in Switzerland, so
they're
Yeah, and
really terrible with like villain nationalities and stuff.
he's got to
Like,
be either
you're,
French, German, or Swiss. I don't know. He's
well,
not
Gert
English.
Frobe
That's
is like so
Gert Frober's German, right?
yeah,
yeah.
As
I
far
but
as
mean,
I'm
he
he's
was
dubbed as well.
yeah,
yeah,
of
yeah.
course.
He
But
was
Gert
dubbed.
Frober's German, right?
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
his accent. I mean, he was originally dubbed, but then he learned English, so they let him redub himself.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I don't know. There's so many I don't know who to believe anymore in terms of Goldfinger's voice because some people say it was dubbed, some people say he dubbed himself, and some people say there's no dub at all. So and no one
You
actually
can really
there's no
tell it was dubbed
there's
at
no
some points.
concrete no one there's no no one actually has ever been able to confirm that for some reason, which is quite frustrating. But yeah, I think this scene is just great, because he's there. He's like, I think you're right, Tom. It's like how can you be that bad at cards? I think he's just thrown off because he's so
Mm.
he's panicking. He just doesn't know what to do now. He's probably forgotten the rules by now because he just gets told
Yeah, he
what
like
to do. So,
snaps his pencil.
yeah, snaps the
he was.
pencil, man. He's fuming. I think that's
It's
quite
funny,
good.
like the sound effect for the pencil snapping is like
Yeah.
heard from Bond's end as well, which is like it's funny and really comical. because he's looking through the binoculars and you hear it, even though you'd never be able to hear it. It's still, yeah.
Yeah. And then Bond, of course, he's like all, charming and stuff with this girl, and like pulls up her sunbed to like, get down to business, so to speak.
Yeah.
We then cut to them.
Yeah,
Hey?
I love the next cut though, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, here from the White House, the president says he's very satisfied. He's totally satisfied.
It's slightly satisfied.
Yeah, and he says, well, that makes two of us,
Yeah, great quote. I was going to say that myself. Yeah. Of course, they're all like, they're like cuddling up in bed basically, and then Bond goes, "Oh man, not run out of champagne's lost its chill." So he goes to get another bottle, and then he's like, "Yeah, well, some things aren't done, like drinking this very expensive champagne you brokies can't afford. Below a certain temperature Fahrenheit."
Yeah, 78.2
Yeah,
degrees
that's really
Fahrenheit.
weird. It's really weird. He has this little thing where he like makes references to drinks in Fahrenheit. He does it again. You and Live Twice. It's like
that's right.
it's just really,
Well, I think this is
really
before
weird.
the UK transitions to the metric system, and then didn't even
right?
bother to uphold it half the time anyway. So
Interesting. And obviously he compares it to saying, that's like listening to the Beatles without wearing earmuffs. So, real sign of the times, man. Earmuffs.
yeah, James Bond is a Beatles hater.
Yeah, like Patrick Bateman with his Sony Walkman, man. Like. So yeah. Anyway, so Bond's goes down to the fridge to get out his, get some more champagne, and then someone karate chops him on the back of the head and knocks him out. And then we get to see the Odd Job, the silhouette of Odd Job.
Yeah, with this little jingle,
music, the music cue there, unreal, man. Love it, and the way they employ it throughout the rest of the film is so good, man. And the cue itself, it sounds like gold, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It's like I don't know how they created that effect, because really it sounds like someone like tapping a glass with a fork or something, but I don't know, or like a triangle, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's like
that
they literally
instrument.
captured like what a twinkle sounds like.
Yeah, and it's like not just gold, like the gleam of the gold, like the light reflecting off gold. It's like it's so good, man, and that's why it won an Oscar at the end of the day for that, I suppose.
It's like Odd Job doesn't even speak, but like that's like his theme, like his little cue or whatever.
Yeah,
which is
he may not
synonymous
speak,
with him.
but he says a lot.
Indeed. And yeah, evidence of that is when Bond, finally comes to and wakes up and then sees again one of the most famous sort of images from Bond, which is Jill Masterson completely covered in gold on the bed, naked. So, and obviously you get that music and everything, man. It's
like with a much more like has a powerful version of it, so to say.
Yeah, it confused me a little bit when I was younger, to be honest. I was kind of, I didn't really understand what was going on. I thought like, is this a gold statue that she's been killed and replaced with, or I didn't really. It took me a long time to actually kind of understand that she was probably like strangled or whatever, and then painted in gold. But,
I think like
I don't know if that's
because
just
he
me.
said it's skin suffocation, which
exactly.
is a real. And I actually always kind of thought that was the case anyway. Like it never really confused me. I mean, back at this point they probably still put like radium and stuff in paint or whatever. Like
yeah, but think about it, because they must have killed her, or at least made her unconscious to actually cover her in that paint. They didn't.
Well, obviously, they weren't like there wouldn't be like paint all over the bed if they were trying to hold her down.
Right. So like, she didn't die of skin suffocation, unless she was like they just made her unconscious, like chloroformed or whatever, and then painted her.
Yeah, Oddjob doesn't need it, man. He just uses it. You just like just bam and then gone.
By the way, there are a few moments here again where they're just teasing like Sean Connery, man, with his accent, because it's like you had Schmush in the last film, and this one, skin suffocation, and like shit like that. There's a couple others later on where he says it. I can't help. I'm like the older I get and the more I watch these Bond films, the more I'm hearing his accent, man. It's so funny.
It's been known to happen to cover dancers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, yeah, that happens. which is like pretty shocking, man, especially back then. And there's a whole like there's lots of interesting backstory to how that was done, how that effect was created, um, and yeah, just one of the iconic sort of movie deaths, almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and he gets to, even be clever about it with M explaining like the whole thing. Is yeah, normally you leave, a bit like at the
yeah,
base of the
patterns.
spine clear so skin can breathe, which obviously someone didn't.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, can you imagine that? They just left like a square, square inch left on the back, and then the killing move is just a stroke with a paintbrush to cover it. Like bang. I don't know, like
do you reckon Oddjob was the
that's
one
a
painting it?
very elaborate way to dispatch of someone.
It
Like,
is. It is. Like you'd
isn't
think
it?
it speaks to how like obsessed Goldfinger is with like gold and stuff. Is like he could have easily, I don't know, shot her or whatever and then just left her or what. But like he went and he got whatever gold paint
Mm.
and wherever you'd get that from, he just popped into home
Wherever,
base or
man,
wherever they
Well,
have
he
there.
just melted down a
then-
bit of his Rolls Royce and then paint her in
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing I like to point out, this reminds me of, it's like a callback to the lyrics of the song. He's got like the Midas touch.
Yeah,
Turns-
yeah. That's right. Exactly. So then, Bond sees this. He's obviously, pretty shocked, and rings up his mate Felix Leiter, and he's like, "Yeah, she's covered in paint, gold paint." And then we head over to London, the Houses of Parliament. I think this is the first exterior shot we get of. I don't remember it being in Doctor No from Russia with
I
Love.
think it isn't Doctor No because they had
It
to
is.
introduce the fact
Okay.
that we're in London. By the way, here's Big Ben.
It just never occurred to me that actually M's office is in that building. I don't know why.
Surely it would be in the MI7 building or the MI6 building.
MI7, Johnny.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he did say he's head of MI7 in the first one. So
My seventh.
yeah, we went over this. He says
I
they
remember you
made-
mentioning it, but I can't. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, but I mean, the MI6 headquarters is shown clearly in later films, but this one, at least to me, it gave me the impression that M's office at this point is in the House of Parliament somewhere.
No, that wouldn't make any sense. It's just to show that they're in London, really. Like
think-
they didn't show like in Die Another Day like the London Eye or something. It's like, oh, I guess they must be in the carriage there.
Well, no,
No,
but I mean,
like,
I
it's
know the MI6 headquarters is like just down the river, literally, but still, like, I don't
It's
know.
not. It's not in the House of Parliament. I think it's in Doctor No when he comes. You see him coming out of an elevator, and then he gets out a lift. Actually, forgive me. And then he gets out and then goes down a corridor, which is clearly not Houses of Parliament, and then just enters an
Yeah, it wouldn't really
inconspicuous
make sense to
office,
have it there.
And then that's like the secret intelligence place.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Well,
it's actually
anyway,
Buckingham Palace.
yeah. Anyway, so we see M once again. What I like about this film, I think it's the first time they mention like other 00 agents. So in this case, he's like, "Oh, well, if you're not up to it, Bond, then I could get 008 to replace you." So that was cool. Because we do go on to is 008 one of them we go on to meet at some point?
I think 009 is the one who gets killed in Octopussy.
I thought it was 003.
No, that's
It's
00. I think it's
009.
009. Yeah.
It is 009. Trust.
Know your facts, James.
I know 006, obviously, but and I'm
Yeah.
sure and in Thunderball we meet a couple of
Yeah.
them as well.
No, Thunderball, you see all of them.
Yeah, which is cool. But
I think
anyway,
that's
that's
really
for next
cool.
week. Obviously, yeah. So Bond and and M, they agree to have dinner later on with Colonel Smithers.
Yeah.
On his
Yeah.
way
Oh
out.
no!
Bond-
One second. One
Yeah?
second, which I find one thing which I find pretty funny in the what's it called?
With
The
Moneypenny.
M scene. No. Yeah, Moneypenny's really 60s in that scene, which is funny because the other ones don't date so much. But it's like when M says, unlike diamonds, it's ideal for smuggling, which just kind of feels like it's preemptively dissing Diamonds Are Forever because the whole thing about that is like them smuggling diamonds, and this one's just like saying gold's better to smuggle than diamonds and blah blah. And basically, if you take it like that, it's literally confirming that Goldfinger has an objectively better plot than Diamonds Are Forever, which I find pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting point.
Yeah.
Very true. I mean,
I think there's a funny moment as well because as
Yeah, go on.
Bond's on his way out, he's flirting with Moneypenny as usual, and then he says, he's got a business appointment later on, so
he
that's
says he's
why
got
he
a
can't
dinner
go out.
date. Oh yeah, no, it was.
And then she goes, "Oh, that's the flimsy excuse you've ever given me." And then he goes, "Who is she, James?" And then M comes on the screen and goes, "She is me, Moneypenny." Like so, it's like legit this time. So yeah, that's quite funny. It's like
I love that bit.
slight evolvement of their relationship for once.
It is
That
funny,
doesn't-
like.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if M just like listens into everything, like
Definitely.
every
Yeah,
kind
of course
of
does, man.
vital.
Like he's got
He's the
every
head
room.
of MI6. I mean, he kind of has to.
Yeah,
Right?
he's definitely got every room bugged, even if it is against the law or something.
Yeah. M's actually a paranoid schizo, man, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so then they go and have dinner, and they're in a very grand-looking hall, with Colonel Smithers, who also appears. You recognised him, right? From Yes, Minister.
Oh, yeah. I think he must have been in one of them. I just
He
forgot.
plays the banker. He's like the
Yeah,
one.
yeah, the guy who
Yeah.
reads the paper. He doesn't quite understand anything.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's
You
always a
remember?
Milton someone,
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's the same guy. So that was quite funny to see him.
Nice to know.
And Bond is basically okay. Yeah, Bond flexes his knowledge of the brandy, and stuff, and he's like,
I
and then
think it's
M
just-
goes, Colonel Smithers is giving the lecture, Bond.
Yeah, it's like I'd say it's a 30-year-old indifferently blended bambois or something like that.
Yeah. And then Bond is of course presented with the Nazi gold, worth £5,000.
Yeah, from the bottom of Lake Toplitz.
Yep. So that's pretty cool. And I just like
you're
the
gonna
fact
pick
that
up from Q Branch.
yeah, that's right. I love the fact there's like £5,000. There's like some like real emphasis on that, which even if you want to go, do you know what annoys me a little bit? It's the fact that like, okay, £5,000. I'm like, okay, that was a lot back then, but also like, just like 5 minutes ago, Bond told Goldfinger to lose 10 grand, and then let's be generous, $15,000. So it's kind of like, I don't know, weakens it a lot. It's
No, I never really thought of that. It's just like you literally just got a giant hunk of gold on the table, just like.
true. And obviously, we get a little economic lecture from Colonel Smithers as well about, the pound and the euro. Actually, they didn't have the euro back then, but the
Yeah,
dollar.
This is like
they went on
this
about
is
like
Yeah.
how
a
Goldfinger
lot.
smuggles and so
Yeah,
on.
that's right. They do a bit of exposition, which is good.
Yeah, there's a lot more like kind of basically simple. It's not like politically Cold War like undertone
Yeah.
to it. It's
Yeah.
just
What's
basically
interesting,
money.
I think what the real strength of this film is the plot. I think it wouldn't even be a stretch to say this is probably the best plot of any Bond film. It makes sense. It's not too overcomplicated. It has genuine, interesting twists that go on to be revealed. But I think in terms of like a plot that is like relevant, that aged relatively well, and actually makes sense and is believable, I think this one is actually stands up quite well.
Mm. Yeah,
It does.
I'm going to mention some historical context later on, which
Okay.
actually makes this film, the plot of it, even more important. But
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
something
I
to do
think
with
this.
President Nixon. So.
I think the plot with this film, though, like what it did achieve the best, I think, was make it the most kind of widely understandable and widely accessible for the audience. Like the audience that saw From Russia with Love probably wouldn't have. They might not if I wasn't there, but like they wouldn't have been able to like understand every single like political nuance behind the plot and stuff. But
well, I mean, they were living in the middle of the Cold War. Like, I'm pretty sure they would have got most of it.
yeah,
Either way, that
maybe.
plot doesn't really age well because Cold War, obviously, like first of all, Cold War's a plot that's been done to death in Hollywood. Secondly, it's something that just can't. Gold, on the other hand, is literally like as long as man has existed, basically, gold has been this.
Something you want.
Yeah, this like
Universal.
a precious metal. It's a finite resource that has value, and this is a film all about gold. And I think that's just that. And in theory, I think you could probably still apply that plot today. In theory,
Yeah,
if you have the whole gold reserve in Fort Knox, and there's a billionaire, let's say, who has a lot of gold and then wants to increase the value of it, you could, in theory, go and execute this plot. I mean, I'm just saying that's how this plot could still stand up today in a sense, or
I
in
think like
any era, really.
a testament to the plot is the fact that they tried rehashing it for so many other
Yeah.
films as well.
Hmm.
The kind of basics of it, which we'll get into. So that really, that shows how good it was.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, as you said, Henry, M instructs Bond to go and collect this gold from Q Branch, and this is one of the scenes, man, like in cinema history.
You just get to they're like, because you see Q, I mean, you see Major Boothwood and Doctor No like just gives him his gun, tells him to piss off. Well, he gets told to piss off actually. Then you actually see Desmond Llewellyn in From Russia with Love. He just gives his like sheepish kind of introduction of the briefcase, and like this time he's just he's done with James Bond shit. Like he's probably like it's like it feels like there's been like 10 missions in between this, and he's like destroyed everything like he's given him like
It feels like Q just like recently got promoted or something, and he just got like this whole like laboratory and stuff.
Yeah,
and
they
he's
gave him
like,
a budget,
he's,
and everything. Yeah,
he's not being talked down to by like any double O.
yeah,
agent.
yeah. I
Yeah.
love Q, man.
I love the stuff. I love the stuff going on in the background as well.
That's the best bit, isn't it? And I love that that's established in this film. Like this is one of the things that makes this film so great. It just sets the tone for Q, where he's there's a guy getting gunned down in the background, and like, oh yeah, we're still testing that one, whatever.
It's not fully tested
yeah,
yet.
Yeah.
it's great, and Q himself is so deadpan and dry and everything. Bond's trying to take the edge off and stuff, but Q's not having any of it. He doesn't muck around, he doesn't suffer fools. And Bond's always provoking him. I just love that. And Desmond Llewellyn, of course, who just becomes a real stalwart of this franchise.
Yeah. Like that's literally the first thing Bond does. Like Q's trying to like talk to a technician. Bond pulls out some like grenade-looking thing, like could just blow up all of them at the same time by accident. Then he just tells him to put it down. Like.
And I think there's a funny moment where Q goes to Bond and he says, it's to the effect of like, how long will this take? And then Q goes, oh, well, if I have your undivided attention, shouldn't need more than an hour. And Bond just does this face
he rolls his eyes.
It's so good. It's so
with
good because we've all been there. We've all been like at that, in that situation. So yeah, I love it. And of course, we see for the first time the Aston Martin DB5, and with all the bells and whistles, of course, as well.
Everything. I mean, the cool thing about it is actually that car was modified. Like it was a modified DB5, and most of those gadgets actually worked in it. I don't know about the ejector seat, but most of it was like actually like I mean, obviously didn't really have access to CG back then. And that car also went on to be like literally in a bomb plot of its own. It got like stolen overnight in like some cargo plane, like just taken to the Middle East. And I don't know if it got recovered like recently or something, but like
it did
it's
recently.
probably one of the most
It did actually get recovered recently. I was in the news or something. Got found.
I might have to purchase it. Like it's probably one of the probably in like the top like 20 like most valuable cars in the world probably now. So
I think it's certainly the most iconic car in film history as well. Has to be, right?
Yeah, basically.
I mean, I would say the Batmobile, but there are so many versions of the Batmobile. Yeah. You'd have to sort of pick one, and that's quite hard to do. Even though we have done it, if you go back to our Batman series. But Aston Martin DB5 is just, like I said, probably the most famous car in the world because of this film.
Yeah, it just looks so good, like so classic, like, and obviously like all the gadgets
it's
in it.
Stunning. It's just a beautiful car. Tom, remind me, did we see this? Was the Aston Martin DB5 at Bewley Motor Museum, or I don't think it was.
It wasn't the one, but I think they had like a replica.
I think I'd have remembered if I think I would definitely remember if it was there, but I don't think it was. They might have had some kind of replica there. But but nonetheless, just and obviously, like I said, with all the bells and whistles, all the gadgets, this is where, like I say, Henry, this is where Bond becomes larger than life. It's really symbolized within this car, this particular vehicle.
And then Q's like, the cherry on top is, like, underneath the gear stick, you got this little red button, but don't push it.
Whatever
like,
you do, don't push this button. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why so? And it's like, because you'll disengage this part of the roof, and and then you'll engage the passenger ejector seat, and then you get that little thing between Sean Connery and him. He's like, ejector seat, you must be joking. And then he's like, I never joke about my work, 007. Like completely, like he's like almost looks offended, like as if he
Yeah.
like make that up.
Yeah, and that's where the scene ends as well. It's
Like
so good, man.
Yeah, like could you imagine like the amount of like work he put into making that possible, just to be like, yeah, don't believe you.
I love Bond and Q's relationship, and you see it grow over the series as well, over the decades. And I think it's a particularly special one for two reasons. One because he has ongoing relationships with M and with Moneypenny. These are like M, Moneypenny, and Q are the three sort of main recurring characters in the Bond franchise, right? And with M, and he has different relationships with all of them. M's his boss. So there's that dynamic going on. Moneypenny is the flirty kind of receptionist kind of vibe. But Q is my favorite one because Bond, they're not. I think they're because Bond is clearly above Moneypenny. There's a clear hierarchy with M, Bond, and Moneypenny. With Q, I feel like Bond and Q are pretty much equals. I would say, in the grand scheme of things. I don't know if you agree with that.
The funny thing, I think like they are like in essence, but like I don't think M sees it that way because some we'll get to it eventually, but he does eventually express like some when he's in a bad mood, he like expresses some contempt for like cues like interjections and stuff, and
That's
like
true.
he will take Bond's side over Q's, I think, which is quite funny to see. But yeah,
That's true. Actually, that's a good
Well, maybe.
point.
Well, we see M does have. He doesn't like people smarter than him. He hates it when Bond goes on like and Q is probably smarter than both of them put together. To be honest, with
God,
all the
for
stuff he
sure.
puts together. But
And the second reason I think Bond's relationship with Q is particularly special is because of Desmond Llewellyn, and obviously he kept going until the world is not enough. So not only is his relationship with Bond ongoing, but we get to see how that dynamic changes with each Bond actor as well.
Yeah, he doesn't
Not to mention the variety of gadgets he presents him with as well.
Yeah, I think he meets four of them. He never sees George Lazenby, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, he's at his wedding.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, just not in the usual circumstances.
Still, there's one film he misses out on, which is Live and Let Die. That's the only one Q misses out on.
Oh yeah, because M shows him. Like, I think so.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, while James Bond flexes his coffee machine, Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so we get to meet Q basically, and the Aston Martin DB5.
Character of its own, really.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I don't know if there's much more to comment on that. I mean,
the next thing, he meets Goldfinger at the country club.
One second for the Q thing. Like, one thing that I find a little confusing is that Q's like, I want it to be intact for once when you return from the fields, but like, if surely that would if you wanted it to be pristine, that would entail it not being used, right? So you want it to be used because that's like your handiwork. That's the reason you're there. So you create good stuff that like gets used and gets people out of bad situations.
Yeah, but he does be destroyed.
So it feels kind of a bit.
He wants it back. Well, I think he wants it back, but having been used, so he can get feedback on. Oh yeah, and then I totally like sliced this guy in half with this sword. Oh, I chopped up her car with this bit. Oh yeah, that's probably Q. And Q never really gets to see or experience the fruit of his own labor, right? Because he just sends it off, and he kind of knows it's going to be destroyed. And he's probably always hoping that he'll see it again, but is resigned to the fact that he won't.
Yeah, I love the bit as well. Like, like immediately after he says, "Yeah, did try to bring it back for once," and he's like, "Well, you'd be surprised how much wear and tear it goes."
Yeah, that's right. Oh, there's another comment I just wanted to throw in there. I think it's a really interesting. It kind of reminds me of the whole Baressa Walther thing from Doctor No, when Bond comments upon the fact like, "What happened to my Bentley?" And it's like, "Ah, your Bentley's finished, mate. We've got an Aston Martin for you now." And it's funny that it's just this whole like series of Bond adventures, which we never get to see, but they do a little bit of character building with him, or just try and flesh him out, make him feel like he's got some history there,
Yeah.
you know, which is, you know, I think is worth mentioning. So that's the DB5 for now.
Yeah.
Bond, like you said, Henry, he goes and meets Goldfinger at the golf club. This is probably again like the best. It's a funny one. I love this scene.
Yeah, they
This scene's
somehow
so
made
classic.
golf interesting to watch. Like
This is my thing.
Yeah.
Golf is probably the most boring sport you can imagine, but they make it into this like back and forth between the protagonist and the villain, and it's almost like chess but with like green, you know. I don't know. It's like this tactical. They're working each other out. They're weighing each other up, and they're having
yeah,
these back
and not
forth.
to mention, when he sees who Goldfinger's caddy is, you know, or caddy. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
setup is so good. From the moment they make eye contact, you know, it's like, you know, how do you do? How do you do? You know, and then obviously meets Odd Job's there. We get the musical cue.
Yeah, it's like because you've only seen them. I mean, obviously the cue helps, but even if you didn't have like the cue at either point, just by his like silhouette, it's like it's the bowler hat man. Like you immediately know who
It's
it
not a
is.
bowler hat, is
So
it?
the top hat.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
It's
I only
like,
think because he's like literally like throwing, I think, bowling like cricket. So
it's funny, like yeah, it's like this kind of is interesting to me because you kind of see the consequence of James Bond being overconfident when he like does the thing with the cards earlier on, because then Goldfinger recognizes him by his voice. So like, and who wouldn't be actually if someone calls you to lose like 15K or whatever, you'd probably remember the voice that like made you do that. So yeah, later that plays up in the scene as well, because you're kind of wondering if well, for me at least, you're kind of wondering if Goldfinger recognizes him initially or not, and then
he makes a lot of
yeah,
references to it.
I wanted to ask
you
you
get-
guys that
and-
actually, because like you say, Goldfinger does go on to say, oh, you know, now our previous encounters, like, you know, now it works out. I wanted to ask you, at what point do you think he works out
I
that he
think he
works
must
out
have.
that's the same person that screwed him out of that money earlier? Do you
He
think it
must have figured it
was,
out almost.
and not just that, by the way, but the fact that Bond effectively by doing that got Jill Masterson killed as well. That's, you know, that no, you know, that's kind of, it goes by the way, but really Bond's partially responsible for her death, you know, like,
Yeah.
and he should feel guilty about that. Perhaps doesn't. I mean, they do go on and address it later, but I just think that's interesting. But yeah,
I think he must
do you
have
think
figured it out
Goldfinger
though. Like,
realizes straight away, or
well,
at what point, if he doesn't, what point does he?
well, the thing is, at least the way I see it, like Oddjob had already seen him before, like when he knocked him out. So he must have like known immediately. Like when he sees this guy, okay, maybe he didn't know his name, but he knows. Well, actually, Oddjob, I don't know if he could I don't know if he drew him a picture of what he looked like because he can't speak. Um, but I mean, it must have been either that or the voice that like confirmed it to him to be like, oh, this guy's just winding me up now, clearly, because like in the middle
That's
of
a
the
good
game,
point. I
he's
didn't
like,
think of Oddjob, to be fair. So this is where I wonder, like, okay, so Goldfinger, like, they make eye contact, and Bond sort of teases him with the first thing he says to him, and then Oddjob sees him. So we don't know if Oddjob saw Bond beforehand or if he's just seen him for the first. I assume that's the first time they kind of made up. And Bond obviously freezes a bit. He's like, oh, like,
yeah,
because Bond's trying to. I mean, Bond wouldn't have seen Oddjob, but maybe like as he was
Oddjob definitely
passing
saw
out, he
it.
saw the silhouette. You know, I don't know. It's really cool. There's a lot going on here, you know, which just adds that spice to the scene as well, isn't it?
But in the middle of like the golf game as well, like Goldfinger says to him, like, oh, so what's your game, Mr. Bond? And he's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, you didn't come here to play golf,
Yeah.
Like, yeah. When did
Obviously,
you?
that's like my favorite moment of the scene of the whole thing in the golf course is like when Goldfinger's just trying to line up his shot, and then like he's like and then my game, and then he like throws the gold bar down, and then you see like Goldfinger's face like get distracted by it, and then he's like, and then he like you go back to his shot, and he like misses because he's so fixated by the gold, and like it's really great. Like they really like, I don't know, Goldfinger's so obsessed with gold and everything in this film. It's really good for like his character and stuff.
I completely agree. I was going to mention that as well. I think
Yeah.
it's very clever because early when Bond is first shown the gold, the guy goes, he says Bond can use this however he likes, and then that's that's a big that's you've got a lot of room to like be creative with that, and I think the way he uses that throws it down. Now, when I
Do you
was
think it
younger,
might have
I used to think, yeah, Goldfinger was
caused an
distracted.
indent?
That's why he messes up the shot. But I'm wondering if actually the weight of the gold is what causes some kind of like,
Indent in the floor?
yeah, and that's what causes the ball to like, roll to the side towards it.
Yeah,
That's what I think. But it could be a bit of both. Could be one of
it
the.
might have been.
Well, I'm
'Cause,
actually
like,
That's what I thought, though.
go on.
what I'm curious about is like, how did James Bond? Now that you mention it, how did James Bond like conceal that, and then like, did he just have it stuck in his pocket
Got
or
the
something?
biggest
and then, like,
pockets ever,
wi-
man.
Yeah,
The
like, and then
weight
he
of it
just
as
kind
well,
of
man.
like
It's like
Yeah, well,
throws it out. Like,
you're like a
or did he
Toblerone.
give it to his gives it to his like
caddy.
supporting his caddy, who's
Hmm.
by the way like probably the most overplayed supporting character in like
Yeah,
Oh
man.
yeah, man. This guy.
It's-
Yeah, he's so bait, man. Like
Yeah.
when basically because Goldfinger can't find his ball, and he's like, oh, strict rules of golf. If you can't find it in 5 minutes, you forfeit the game or whatever. And then Odd Job produces one like another one, and then Bond's actually standing on top of the real one, so they're just gonna fuck with them a bit. And then like this guy after Goldfinger like walks off a meter, he's like, "Did you switch him, sir?" Like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This guy, yeah, he does
Yeah.
overact a bit. I think that might have been because you know how the director and I think the whole like crew they're a bit sneaky and like just poking fun at Americans wherever they can. I think this might be a little bit of that
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he's right next to Bond and Bond he's kind of like by being like all that. It's like when you're good looking, you got like the ugly, you hang out with the ugly friends, or like girls do that, sort of thing. So like the ugly friends to make you look more beautiful, right? In contrast, I think that there's a bit of that going on with Bond. He's there, he's like keeping it cool. He's like got everything under control. He's confident, and this guy's just like, he's just like gassed to be there,
yeah, exactly. I
So
don't know.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is
and he
the
goes,
moment of his cadging life.
the tension, the suspense, that in such
Yeah.
small, like otherwise completely irrelevant moment, but because they switch the balls obviously, and then Goldfinger he puts it down, and then Bond goes, if he doesn't notice it, and then Goldfinger he there's a moment where he looks down and he's like, adjusting the ball
Yeah,
and
because he
holds his
puts it on the
arm and
floor
stuff,
back.
It's like there's this little moment where it's like, oh, it just keeps you on the edge. And it's such a small thing, but that detail just really adds to the scene. It's so good,
Yeah. As well, like
Yeah, and
Bond's. Yeah, go on.
go on.
No, you go on.
Right, well, the thing is like Sean Connery's there's one particular shot where they just sell the suspense of the scene where it's like Goldfinger's about to take a shot and then like I think it's like Bond or something puts his hand on the
Yeah, that's
caddy
right.
and like they're both looking at it, not even looking
Yeah,
at each
yeah,
other,
yeah.
and
It's so good.
it's funny, but
Yeah.
yeah.
What were you
But
saying,
the other thing that I wants to mention as well is the fact that like Bond and Goldfinger, Bond's especially trying to wind up Goldfinger as well. Like it's just
Mm.
he wants to wind up anyone basically.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
He's like trying to take a shot and then he like speaks to him just to, like distract him for a second. And he like stops and he's like, yeah, sure, cool thing. And then Goldfinger does it to him later on. He's like
Yeah,
multiple
strict
times
rules.
Bond's trying to take
Yeah,
a
yeah,
swing
yeah.
and then just as he's about to, he's like, oh, should we do this? And he's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's so good. I love the this scene is amazing. Just the pair and I can't think of any film which has a golf scene that I think they've just I mean obviously it's parodied in John English Reborn. But other than that I can't remember like a really like great golf scene other than this from any film that I've seen. But
I don't think anybody tried to like
yeah,
replicate it
I
because
think
they
you only
wouldn't
ever see
be able
golf in
to do it
comedies
as
really, and
well.
that's yeah. This is like the golf scene, isn't it,
Mm.
for any film? I did want to comment as well on their clobber, on their outfits, because like Goldfinger's like outfits are like quite interesting. First of all, because Goldfinger is in the whole film is never seen without an item of clothing that's gold, apart from at the end. But even then, he's got like a gold gun, right?
Mm.
And jewelry and eyebrows. But other than that, I think it's funny seeing Bond wearing, because Bond's always like the peak of fashion and attire, right? And in this, he's wearing a Slazenger sort of
Yeah.
jumper, right? And it's just funny, like Slazenger back then must have been some really prestigious brand, because it's taken now it's just like Sports Direct,
Yeah,
like
yeah, they
cheap as
mention-
shit, like
Yeah, because they mentioned, oh, it's a Slazenger ball, you know, like
yeah, it's like,
I have a
that was
Slazenger
probably
ball.
like the pinnacle of that. I mean, obviously, Slazenger still like makes tennis equipment and stuff to a high level, but I think now, you see some of Slazengers, it's just like, like the Slazenger Warriors, it's like the typical like Brexit shoe, like I don't know, you know what I mean? It's just funny, the reputation. It's just funny seeing Bond wear Slazenger, that's quite shocking almost,
Yeah, it's the first time I actually noticed it was like that's what he's wearing, but
Yeah, same.
I don't know.
I knew the balls were Slazenger, but just to see him wearing one is just funny, man. Because that's like your average Weatherspoons, like regulars, like wearing Slazenger, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah. Talk about the climax of this scene.
yeah, right. So yeah, Bond, basically Goldfinger. Well, Goldfinger cheats because he, Oddjob finds his ball, which isn't the real one. He just drops it down his trousers. And then Bond is like, oh, okay, well then, if you're going to play dirty, switches the balls. Goldfinger does beat Bond, but then Bond beats him on a technicality of it's a Slazenger 7.
Strict
instead
rules
a
of golf,
Slazenger
so-
1. Right. Again, they're stitching
It's funny
up
that, like-
the Schlesinger and the, Schlesinger 7. Were you going to say something?
It is funny, like even with cheating now, Goldfinger can't win. So it is funny to that's like his little defense mechanism or whatever in these games and stuff, is just cheating when he's not confident that he's going to win, and then even despite that, this time he just completely fails, which is funny.
But it's
And it
funny
leads
that
to a really great
falls on his
discussion
own,
as
he
well.
falls on his own sword as well, because he was the one that suggested to Bond earlier to try
Yeah.
and throw him off. He was like, "Oh, strict rules then," and Bond goes, "Of course, And then Bond uses that to basically, But it's just fun. I love this. It's so good. Like it's so layered. We've even missed out a few things, but it's just,
exactly. The thing is as well,
it's a great scene.
he couldn't even call out Bond for switching his ball, because then he'd have to actually admit the fact that he cheated earlier by pretending he found it anyway.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
he'd have to admit the fact there's two Slazenger ones, because
Yeah. It's so good, and Goldfinger's frustration again. He's already broken the pencil, and then this time he's like throws down the ball. It's so good, man. Of course,
not to
then,
mention what comes after this.
right. So
Yeah.
so Goldfinger, yeah, we see Goldfinger's Rolls Royce Phantom, which again is just like I mean, you've got the DB5 just in the background, casually chilling there, but it's Rolls Royce.
It's literally a Rolls Royce. What can you do?
Exactly.
I think it's
And this
top
particular model
1%
is a
ride.
custom. Well,
Yep.
the original model it was based off of was a custom build for some English lord or something. So, speaks to the heights that this car is held to.
Right. And then obviously Goldfinger has a bit of back and forth with Bond where he's like,
oh, you're worried I wasn't going to give you a return game?
Yeah. Bond plays dumb, because Goldfinger's like, yeah, I know we've met before. Basically, he lets on that, and then Bond's like, oh yeah, we'll do a return game, and then he goes, both of us know perfectly what we're talking about, Mr. Bond. But since I see it's necessary to remind you, Oddjob gets him over, man. Oddjob frisbees his hat over, decapitates a statue there, falls to the ground, and Bond goes, "Oh, I wonder what the
Club secretary."
I wonder what. Yeah.
Oh,
what
nothing, Mr. Bond.
secretary will have to
Oh,
show
you're
up.
in the club.
Bond, yeah, Goldfinger in the maybe the most Sigma male and line in the whole franchise. Goes, "Oh, nothing, Mr. Bond. I own the club."
I love that so much.
And the way that's aged, because I think it's probably fair to say maybe the most I mean, probably apart from Tiger Woods, but probably the biggest name you associate with golf now is Trump. And I think there's almost shades of Trump within Goldfinger as well. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, actually, come to think of it, yeah.
He owns the golf
I think
course.
so.
And it's like, what high states of wealth is that? And obviously Trump's quite famous, among other things, for having his golf
Yeah, his
circuits,
golf
right? So
courses.
you know,
Yeah, well, you know, there's
the mark of
some
wealth.
Yeah,
resemblances. You know, Trump's
There's a little
grandparent. I
bit of
mean, Trump's
resemblance as well.
grandparents came from Germany. You know, he's got the blonde hair. You know, he's not necessarily the fittest person on earth.
No, definitely not.
May or may not cheat certain
he,
things. Yeah, especially like his wives and so on. But anyway,
Very wealthy.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
I love. Anyway, yeah, I own the club. I mean, this is the first of many Sigma moments in this film. But I think it's one of those where you can tell not only will this finish first, probably when we vote for it, but perhaps of the whole franchise as
yeah,
well.
this is literally like
We will get to some more,
I
but
think like
this is going to be right up there, man.
go on, Tom.
the I wanted to say like what I really love, like Goldfinger in my mind immediately knows it's James Bond, right?
Mhm.
And he's like, fine, whatever. And then the one thing I really like, which is like so Sigma about Goldfinger, is like he's not rattled at all that it's James Bond and this person's responsible for like losing whatever money for him. He's like so like fixated on gold and stuff. Like he's like game on when Bond drops the gold bar down. He's like he doesn't care about his like previous humiliation at least until later on, until like as long as he can win this guy's gold off him and
Right.
increase his stock as yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
but
And
then he also
I
places the
think it's worth.
tracker.
I think it's obviously worth touching on Oddjob's hat. You know, obviously Oddjob is one of the iconic henchmen in film history, let alone Bond.
Mm.
And obviously, you know, his hat as well. It's like his own gadget, and then he's using that. You know, and obviously, like it's a bit stupid because it doesn't make any sense. The steel rimmed brim of the hat like
Yeah.
slices a stone statue like clean off. You know, like that literally isn't possible. It's like physically impossible, but
Well, maybe the
it's still
force of
cool.
it hitting it like cracked it all the way through. Who knows? Because he's a
So
strong
it's a
guy.
clean slice, right? It's like I don't know.
Well, because the thing is, he doesn't
Unless
decapitate
like
people, does he? He breaks their necks.
yeah. This is it confuses later on, yeah, because like I say, he uses it again on someone, and then like it doesn't. It kills. Oh, actually, we'll come to that later. But I don't know. We get to see
Spoiler
odd
alert: that
jobs
hat
do
is
his
used
thing.
later on.
Sorry.
No, spoiler alert for the viewers: that hat is later used for
Yeah,
like
sure.
one person who hasn't
It,
seen
again,
Goldfinger.
it's just one of those things. I remember even when we were kids, you know, we'd like recreate it with like you know, I think some was Goldfinger.
I was probably the victim. Let's be honest.
Yeah, Henry was the
Yeah.
statue, and I must have been an odd job. Yeah, man, it was like, yeah, great times, man.
Yeah,
Um,
great songs for you.
yeah.
Unless
Henry's
you're
the one
the
that got hit with the
victim.
pillow in the end, so you know. So yeah. Oh, also important. Well, before we leave this scene, Oddjob ends up. This also becomes a Bond trope. Actually, it starts with Doctor No, and then Oddjob does it. He crushes the golf ball. You know.
Yeah, because Bond's like, oh yeah, I think you'll need this because like he's just winding him up there. Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
I'll
He's
give
like
it to him.
mocking it, man. He's like, "Don't forget this, mate," and then crushes it, man. Symbolic, and also perhaps foreshadowing for Casino Royale.
Yeah.
But but anyway, so then.
Which
Uh,
one?
Oh, obviously, what's important here is that Bond plants the Homer that
Yeah,
you gave him earlier. He plants the tracker basically in Goldfinger's car,
yeah.
and then opens up his monitor in his Aston Martin and goes and tracks him down basically and follows him eventually to the Swiss Alps. So again, very beautiful imagery here, very scenic. First and not the last time Bond is in Switzerland in the Alps. But yeah, I think this is just it's just a beautiful scene, beautiful cars and everything. It's just
Mm.
wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like
Especially
nothing
shitty
quite
winter
like
that we're
seeing
experiencing right now.
as well. Like I like the bit as well. He's like driving around. He sees like like a pretty lady in a car, and he's like he
Yeah,
like he's got like like M on his shoulder, almost like like
yeah,
the angel and the devil. Like he's like you know the
discipline.
discipline 007.
Yeah,
Discipline, and then he just doesn't go after her. Like
yeah. It's like,
it's
oh
just it's just
well done, mate. Round of
yeah,
applause
yeah.
for Bond.
Congrats, Bond. I like
Wow.
the as well. Just it's just that like you get. There's nothing better than seeing like like just the camera shots of just like two like amazing looking cars just going around, you know, the
Mm.
hillside kind of.
Again,
It's
not the last time we'll see that, but yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, Goldfinger's stopping off to have an apple or whatever he's doing.
Yeah, he's buying
Bond is
fruit.
on the the ridge above him on this mountain, basically looking down at him. And then even above Bond, there's a sniper, and we only see the barrel of the rifle, which is so cool, man. Like the way they have this suspense and this mystery once again, and it's like because we don't have those same elements from Doctor No and from Russia with Love, where he's always being followed until this moment, and then there's like all of a sudden there's like this assassin basically right behind him, who obviously we go on to discover who it is later. But I think just for this moment, it's like whoa, you know, like it's like very unexpected. It's very sudden, and obviously,
yeah, it's like James Bond is like, you know, he's trying to show his dominance, but he doesn't even know there's someone behind him. Like,
and obviously, the shot is taken and it nearly hits Bond basically.
Yeah, and I don't understand how like Goldfinger didn't even notice that like down there. He's just like it's like some loud like sniper fire behind him, and he's just chilling, like, you know, gets
echoing through the mountains. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But anyway, so Bond like looks up, sees the car drive off, so he goes and tails it. We get to see the use of a Bond gadget that wasn't actually explained by Kubrick, and it's actually like from Chariots of Fire.
Yeah, I was just gonna
Always
say
reminds me
like
of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally. So.
Well, do you mean Ben-Hur maybe?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I
I
was
think
thinking
Chariots of Fire, man.
you did fuck off, man. You did the same thing. I said Chariots, and you're like, yeah, and then fire. Yeah, obviously Ben-Hur. That's right. The spike, the buzzsaw going through like the spokes of the wheel is so cool.
Yeah,
Man.
he like totals a car, man. Like this thing is
Yeah.
like he really. I mean, to be fair, I mean, in his mind, you know, like it's justified because she, you know, tried to kill him or whatever. But like, man, she could have been like a horrific accident, like, you know, like
Yeah, it could have been some Italian job shit, man.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
yeah, it could have been like the Three Blind Mice all over again, you know.
I think Bond took a calculated risk, and
yeah,
but you are right. Yeah, it could have gone a lot worse. Yeah, she's fine, man. She doesn't even get whiplash, man. She's like fine, man.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Like I don't know, man. If they're like,
I never thought about that, but yeah, it's a great point.
yeah, I don't know if they're implying she's stupid because she's blonde or whatever. But like, she like anyone who looks at that on their car is like, and he's like, oh yeah, it must have been tire blowout. And then she's like, yeah, sure.
There's a
double
long
blowout, a double blowout. Wow, what are the
yeah?
chances?
I wonder how like half of like, you know, my car's chassis has been sawn through. Like,
yeah.
I mean, there's like a very late.
Wow,
like,
the moths really got to that one. Wow.
yeah. It's like.
Yeah,
Well,
you
it's
should
like in the
have.
Living Daylights where Bond says, "Oh yeah, salt corrosion" to the same thing, you know, like
pretty much, yeah. Exactly.
But like, I'm not making fun of how stupid that was. Who knows?
She let the rust get a bit too far on there.
Yeah,
salt corrosion.
That's a good thing you see in a mechanic shop, you know, like.
I forgot about the salt corrosion line, man. That's quite good. But yeah. And anyway, so Bond very generously offers to give the pretty blonde lady a lift to the next petrol station or whatever. While he's doing so, you know, he's like proper exposing her, man. He's like really like, you know, making her, because he's like, you know, oh, and he does it in such like a charming way, you know, like he's like, oh, you know, oh, hunting season, is it? Yeah, I've got a rifle just like that one. And she's like, no, it's my ice skates. It's like, oh, beautiful sport. Where do you ski? You know, and then she's like, oh, here. And she's like, oh, I didn't know there was ice this time of year. You know, and then she's like sweating, man. She's like, oh, here's somewhere you can leave me. You know.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah,
she's completely saved by.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and he looks up and it's TM. That's right.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
She's completely saved by the proximity of that petrol station.
She got lucky there, man. Because Bond's got her like in the palm of his hand, man. He's just like toying with her, man. He just lets her go. But I loved it, man. And then what I loved later on is that when she gets out, Bond hands her the case because she goes, "Yeah, I can look after myself." And he goes, "I'm sure you can." Handing her the gun, you know. I think
I liked the.
I love that whole moment.
I kind of like the first thing as well when he comes to after the crash, like he tries to introduce stuff, you know, like my name's Bond, James, and she cuts him off. She's like, "Yeah, that's cool. Like, can you get me to the
she's having none of it, man. As quickly as possible. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so Bond goes back to tracking where Goldfinger is, and he rocks up at Auric Enterprises. So that's cool. Bond sits there.
Yeah, he's
Bond
having his
sits there.
picnic,
Basically,
in the
this
woods.
is the unglamorous part of Bond, because you see him. He's there in broad daylight, like waiting there, and then presumably he has nothing to do but sit there for like hours waiting for dark. Perhaps he got in another bit of practicing with his deck of cards he carries around with him.
Yeah, maybe.
Doctor No.
I
But
think
yeah.
I think he popped up there and then like he saw that nothing was going on that was interesting. That he popped back to like his hotel or whatever, and then came back in the evening because he's wearing different clothes when.
Yeah, I
he's
noticed
there,
that.
so-
Maybe he had to change of clothes in the boot of the car, I reckon. But yeah, possible he shot off as well. But I don't know. He definitely, yeah, I don't know. So anyway, he's like overhearing. He's overhearing like the Rolls Royce. In fact, I don't think he's overhearing it at this point. Oh, he is actually, because they're like Goldfinger's there with Ling. There's some scientist, right? Dr. Ling, I think, maybe Doctor.
He's doppelganger.
Yeah. And obviously and then he's explaining how how he smuggles the gold, because that's the whole mystery to this point, because that's the whole crux of the
Yeah, how
plot
does he
from earlier.
smuggle
It's
it?
like,
Yeah.
if we can prove that he's doing this illegally, then we can like shut him down. And so anyway, that reveals to be the actual Rolls Royce is like from forged gold,
Yeah,
basically.
its
which is
chassis is
crazy.
like melted down, like.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Can you imagine how like how like he must have to like basically pray that it never gets scratched and like no one sees that it's
Yeah.
gold
Well,
on
it
him.
doesn't matter because it
Like,
gets
on, like,
melted
Yeah,
down anyway.
exactly. Just be
Oh,
like,
but
yeah,
it would expose that it's gold.
in like
Yeah. Oh, that's a very interesting.
customs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
got the best chauffeurs, Well,
Yeah.
He could just
well, he
get
probably doesn't
bumped
drive
into
around in
by,
it
like,
always, so like he's
Mm.
probably got many other cars.
go shopping with it and someone just nicks it on the side.
Yeah. Someone steals the hood ornament. That's like 10 grand gone. But obviously, the most important thing in this scene is that Bond overhears the word Operation Grand Slam,
Yeah,
and that's important for later on.
yeah,
Grand Slam. So then obviously Bondi's like back up on the hilltops, and then like he hears like a rustle in the trees, and then like again like an assassin has come out with a rifle, and then he goes and like stops the assassin, but then like triggers the alarm, and
yeah.
again, man, Bond is screwing it up for other people. Like I know he needs Aura Goldfinger alive, and she wants him dead, and they explain this, but Bond is like, he basically costs like imagine
Yeah,
the
he's like
mother.
wiped out a bloodline, basically. Like,
Yeah, imagine the parents of like Jill and Tilly Masters. Imagine like the Masters'
Yeah.
parents, man. Bond has single-handedly basically got
well,
them
not
both killed.
single-handedly, but
Well, yeah, pretty much.
well, to be
If
fair,
he
he
wasn't
does like
there,
try. I mean, that. I mean, with Jill Masterson, yeah, like he definitely caused her. But
yeah.
with this, he didn't know there was an alarm there, and he tries to save her in the car and so
No,
on.
not really. Because first of all, Henry, if we can agree that he's largely responsible for Jill dying, if he wasn't, then Till would have nothing to come. Tilly wouldn't have nothing to come
Yeah,
back.
that's true. But he does
So
try to
Tilly's
save her.
there,
Like,
she's like obviously grieving to the point where she's gone and like thrown away her life just to go and kill this like
I know
Goldfinger chap.
as well, but like he helps her get away in his car, and he's like like I'll stay and shoot at these guys. You can like run
Yeah,
off.
send her to her death. She's the one
Yeah,
that
but he
died.
doesn't
Yeah,
know the odd
literally.
job's good. Like like
Yeah, but I don't know, man. Like Bond definitely.
He sends her off at like such an inopportune time. He's like, yeah, just run
Exactly.
that way.
Well,
And
yeah,
it's like, yeah,
exactly
okay.
now. Yeah, Bond's definitely a piece of shit for this. Like
true.
for causing like indirectly causing these deaths. And there's because he's like, oh, I knew your sister, and then it's like, oh yeah, well, basically you're the reason I'm here. Then it's
Yeah,
pretty much
cool
your fault,
stuff.
mate. So yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I say,
Also, you
quite tough as
totaled
well.
her car for no reason, but
Yeah,
yeah. He's also like, oh, she's also like, yeah. Oh, I'm trying to kill Goldfinger, and then he's like,
yeah, she's so posh as well. Isn't she?
yeah, and he's like, oh, you're a lousy shot.
Yeah, Goldfinger, he killed my sister. Yeah. Well. Anyway, what we do
And we
get
get
is
the first car chase of
Yep.
the whole series, basically.
No, not the whole
No,
series.
no, we do
We've
get the
got
car
Doctor
chase in
No,
Doctor No.
you know.
Yeah, that's not really doesn't really count. That's
It's not
like
really a
back
car
protection.
chase, even though there are two cars chasing each other.
Listen, just because it's shit, it doesn't mean it's not a car chase.
Yeah,
It is
exactly.
a car chase.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Like, just because it wasn't it was a shit saw trap, it's still a trap.
Yeah. Great analogy, Henry. Just what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
thanks.
But yeah, this is. Do you know what I found really interesting? First time I noticed this, and it happens a few times throughout this film with the golf course as well, the golf scene. But also this one, more surprisingly, there's no music in this scene. There's no music, which I found fascinating because this is like an absolutely a classic moment where you would have some soundtrack, and they made a conscious decision not to do that, which I think is really interesting because it certainly doesn't take away from like how memorable the scene is. And this is a really classic one because Bond, obviously, he's in like the ultimate car. He's being chased by like. Finally, by the way, they found like the budget for some actual Asian actors to play the Asian characters. But unlike in Doctor No. But yeah, they're like pursuing him. You know, they're shooting at him, and he's got all the bells and whistles. He uses the oil and the smoke and the bulletproof shield. You know.
Yeah, so up until this point, they really have a thing for saying like, you know, there's Chinese involvement in this. You know, just like they're just ready to pounce on the collapse of the West, so they're
Yeah.
like happy to sign up. You know, like
Yeah.
Yeah, like when Tilly Masterson dies, like when I was little, I thought like she actually got beheaded.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
want
was
to
wondering,
discuss
yeah.
this. I want to finally put this to bed because it's shot in such a weird way because she's wearing a black turtleneck, and I wish they put her in just any other costume because it just doesn't. Because he looks down at her and it looks like a severed head on the ground, doesn't it?
Yeah, but her neck's clearly been
does, yeah.
snapped, doesn't it?
No, it's not clear at all. That's the
I
problem.
know it's not.
like
It wasn't clear for me as a kid, but
the
then
darkest setting you could possibly have. No one flashes a torch on her or something. Just to. I agree with you, Tom. It does look like she's been decapitated, and that is what it's fair to be led to believe that because that's what happens to the statue earlier, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
true.
statue
If that hadn't
versus
happened,
like
then it's
one
like
blow.
okay, you know. But because you saw the statue get decapitated, and then you see this head on the floor, it fucks with you, man. And it's like I don't know if that I have to assume that's deliberate, but I don't know.
I
Yeah,
don't
it
know. Well,
must
they
be
definitely couldn't have
deliberate.
included a severed head in the film. That's for
Well,
sure.
yeah.
I think. Well, her neck must have been broken by it, but also, like we're also missing, you know, a bit of like, you know, DB5 gets to show off some of its gadgets by this point, like, you know, the bulletproof shield at the back.
Before
And
they had bulletproof glass. I
yeah,
find that
exactly.
so funny though. It's so clunky, isn't it? You know, because you got bulletproof glass is like the obvious solution, and they obviously the technology advanced enough to have that. But back then they obviously had nothing like that. So it's like this. It's really ugly actually. It's just this metal plate which slides up, gives you like actually quite little cover, unless you're. I mean, you know, in their situation, when you're inside the car, it's probably quite good. But again, it only covers one angle, so that's quite, you know, it's almost comical in a way. I know it's this iconic car, but actually that one in particular for me is just a bit like, you know,
Yeah.
That actually must really limit like the boot space and stuff because that's presumably that's
yeah,
where it goes down, right? So probably
yeah.
makes it really
That's a good point.
impractical.
Never
Probably
thought.
not. It's only a sheet. It just needs a little bit of hydraulics to go up and down.
No, but that's got to be a really thick metal, heavy sheet as well, right? And the mechanics within to actually be able to lower and
Like I
raise it
said,
as
it's
well.
just simple hydraulics, man. You know, like
In the
probably what it is.
60s, in
Mate,
the back of an Aston Martin.
Q
I don't know,
Q
man.
could have made it work, man.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Key made it work. Well, he did. We know that.
Yeah, he's got like a tiny tracker, you know, he managed to make.
So anyway, Bond's obviously shaken and stirred by what happens, so he kind of surrenders in his state of shock, having killed, you know, two sisters now. Not killed, but you know,
led to
definitely
their
left-handed.
deaths.
So anyway, this also confuses me a little bit. Like every time, I mean, you give it a miss because of what it leads to, but just the fact
Yeah.
that Bond is allowed to go and drive his like obviously very dangerous car again. They let him back in the driver's seat with just like one guy with a gun to his head. Presumably they think that's enough, which is probably a fair assumption. But
Yeah, I mean, this guy's like a moron as well.
yeah,
Like,
he has no
he
bottle, man, because Bond is first sign of resistance. He does nothing. He just like
yeah, he
points it
drives
a bit
off.
closer, you know.
He drives us to start with, and this guy's like, you know, he's like confused. You know, he's like I don't know
You
if
weren't
I
supposed
don't
to
know.
do that.
Yeah, is he like, is he supposed to do it? It's like, oh, I'm really gonna do it. You know, like
Yeah, he just
Yeah.
like moves a bit closer with the gun, you know, like.
yeah, the guy's like confused. It's like, no, this wasn't supposed to happen. You
And
know,
Bond
like,
is so like, yeah, you're done, mate. You know, like, you know, it's great that you see him like pull up the thing and bang, you know,
yeah, the
eject
guy like
seat.
looks down and he's
Oh, it's
like some
definitely
sort of
worth
like
mentioning,
wily
by the way.
coyote shit. You know, like.
Yeah, it's definitely. Actually, we'll come back to it, but yeah, because Bond. Well, actually, no, we will. Because Bond is between two of the like henchman cars, right? So he's driving, and they pass through the gate, and there's like this old granny there, this sweet old granny. I think this is
Yeah.
just one of the best moments, which
Yeah, yeah,
no one
exactly.
really talks about, but I think everyone does love because she's there. She gives him a little curtsy as well, you know, this sarcastic kind of interaction, and then Bond goes and like
He ejects the guy,
that's the
man.
final insult for Bond. You know, that's like the straw that broke the camel's back. Because then he goes and like
That's
drives off and does this mad shit. You know.
probably
Um,
like Goldfinger's mum or something, just helping with like
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you know,
gate duty or
get her on
whatever.
payroll, you know, like,
yeah.
yes, yeah, like he ejects the guy and he goes off on his spree or whatever.
I
Just
think
pulls
it's
out.
worth. Sorry, just before you go on,
Oh,
just talking about the ejector seat. The fact that someone had to actually cut a hole in the top of an Aston Martin DB5 to achieve that. And it broke the guy's heart because he had to like not just the metal ceiling, but also like all the leather upholstery and on the inside as well. It's just like,
mm.
can you imagine having to do that, man? It's like one of the most beautiful and like most expensive cars in the world at the time. And you have to like butcher it like that. That must have been soul destroying, man. Albeit for like a very iconic scene, of
Yeah,
course.
exactly. I just love the bit, like, you know, he goes off on his rampage. You know, he drives back up. He drives like, you know, past this, you know, guard post again. She pulls out like like, because all the other guys, you know, they got their pistols. She's got like a full-on Tommy gun, man. Like she probably
Yeah,
does the most
it's so
damage to his
good.
car out of any of them. You know, like.
Yeah, it's so good, man. And she's just there, like she's gone from this like sweet old granny to like this like mad killer. I love that,
Yeah,
man.
it's like,
The comedy
like
as well, there, you know.
it's
It
like,
just
in
it's so good.
Terminator 2 with that chain gun. You know.
Yeah, man. Like, it's just got this Gatling gun out of nowhere, man. It's brilliant.
She's
It's
like
brilliant.
she's carrying the team as well, because like if you see it like in the projection on the front of like the car when James Bond's kind of driving around in it, you see how close these Asian like whatever guards are, and like none of them are even like pointing their guns or whatever. They're so close, and like they just don't have, I don't know, do they not have like ammunition or something? And then it's like they don't shoot. But it's so easy from that point, I guess, to shoot whoever's driving, and they just don't. And it's left down
Basically,
to
get
this
run over
granny,
maybe.
Yeah.
just to like
They're not paid enough to give a shit.
yeah, probably.
What and then obviously Bond, he's like driving through the complex, and what's ironic to me is the fact that the funny thing with this car, it's so like famous and so like, iconic, but then it doesn't actually do him any favors, really. It doesn't actually get him out of a hotspot. He gets caught twice when he's driving it. If anything, it's his least efficient car because it literally, like, it's not the
A
car's fault, but
200% failure rate.
yeah,
In this
exactly. It
film,
doesn't
though,
get
it
him
is
out of the
another film.
situation.
It's
It actually gets someone, it gets his friend killed, and then
well,
it
it's not
gets
the
him
car's
captured
fault, man. Like that's
twice.
his fault.
It is his fault. It's his misuse of the car, but he gets captured twice with this vehicle,
Well, to be
and that's
fair, the
quite
only
funny.
thing the
Is
only thing that could stop his DB5 was another DB5, even if it wasn't a mirror.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
that's
funny to me
really
that this
weird.
car that everyone is so famous, probably the most famous car of all time, gets foiled by a mirror. That's all it
Well, that's
takes,
his fault
you know.
again.
Yeah,
Well,
Like
it's his fault, but I just
it
find that funny.
it's
You know,
really
even
good though.
Oddjob is
Like
like when Oddjob notices, he's almost bemused by it. He looks up in the mirror, he's like, oh, you know. I think it's quite funny.
yeah, I don't know. Like there's no way they installed the mirror being like, yeah, someone drives through
Right,
here.
right.
Really.
Oddjob just looks up, he's like, oh, okay.
But even
Uh,
that, I remember that as a kid seeing that. Like that was a good, like
yeah, it was
like it's
great.
proper tense. The music
Yeah,
and
because you don't know what's going on. Like
but yeah,
Bond
because
basically plays chicken really
yeah,
with
exactly. Like
himself.
he takes a shot at it, nothing happens. Like it's like it's like when they're shooting at the dragon tank. Almost like back in Doctor No, but like nothing stops it. But in this case, he
Yeah.
can't even like shatter like one of the lights because he
And
literally can't.
it's just occurred to me because it's such a Hollywood trope, like playing chicken, right? With like two vehicles going head to head, and someone has to, or even in life, actually, that happens, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, it's funny because it's like the spin on it is that Bond is effectively playing chicken with himself, even though he doesn't realize it. That's what's happening. Isn't that funny?
Yeah,
So
what's he
then,
going to do? Go through the wall?
yeah. So anyway,
And he survives that like relatively intact, crashing into like a brick wall in a
yeah, knocks
factory
himself out. What's
house.
also interesting is the fact it happens throughout this film, but Bond actually fails many times during this film, which is quite interesting. Not everything goes his way at all. At all. This is a film where like a lot of things like he gets caught, he gets like he fucks up a lot many times in this film. He fails a lot in this film. But then obviously keeps plugging away in the, you know, British spirit.
Yeah.
Anyway, now we're really
This is a great scene.
this is
Mhm.
the scene, man. This is like this laser table.
Yeah.
Bond wakes up on a table made of gold with a massive laser pointing down at him. Goldfinger's there. Now, this is a bone I have to pick finally with this film. This is a platform. This is like the point. This is why I founded the channel, man. To like pick bones like this on and have a formal discussion about this.
Mm-hmm.
Goldfinger tells Bond, "You've been recognized by one of your opposite numbers, shall we say, who also has license to kill." Who the hell is he referencing there? I've
Yeah,
never
I didn't
understood
get
this.
that. I was like, huh?
Tom, can you help us at all, or is it just one of those?
I mean,
You should
I mean,
say.
at least with Red's Grant, like, there was Spectre that was like an organization probably could find like another agent and like get some info out of them. But with Goldfinger, it's really just him and his business, like, and
Yeah,
I don't know, like maybe I don't know, maybe he like not sure, maybe he like I think maybe he could be lying. Like he like because I don't know. He just wants to get inside Bond's mind or something and make him give up or confess. Like because they actually did that in older interrogation scenes from like
Hmm.
World War II and stuff. They like pretend to like get
Mhm.
information from stuff so that other people would crack basically who they're interrogating. So like I think really what happens they like looked in his car and stuff and probably might have found some idea or whatever, and then they would have been like, "Oh yeah, so he's like an agent or whatever," and presumably, yeah, because he says like many people have tried to involve themselves in my affairs unsuccessfully, so he probably knows he's probably quite used to it actually, and then so he's trying to like get inside Bond's head by like saying, for me at least, oh yeah, we got information basically from one of your other agents,
Well,
and so that's probably meant to break James Bond down. He's like, yeah, or something. I don't know.
well,
What throws me off, I think what you've said there makes sense, and it's probably the most generous possible explanation you can give for the writers who, by a great chance, they have like cocked up there. But what throws me off is the fact that he adds who also has license to kill. That's such like a specific. I don't. It frustrates me how that just doesn't. And
you know,
yeah,
this
that's
might
probably
be.
the best explanation you can give to it. Like, okay, he's trying to fuck with him. I don't know.
Well, yeah, this might be. It could be the previous James Bond on that random Casino Royale TV serial played by that American actor. You know, maybe it was him. And also,
It's
I like to imagine like with the him referencing he's dealt with previous people like this. Like maybe that's why he installed the mirror in there. You know, like someone also was driving around in his warehouse, and he's like, you know, wouldn't it be funny if they went down this one alleyway and crashed their car like this? You know, get a good laugh out of it.
well. Listen, if anyone knows like the explanation to this, please tweet me, man, or like leave a YouTube comment because I'm that has always annoyed me ever since I noticed that line. I've gone like, what does that mean?
Maybe
So
he's just
yeah,
doing it just to like fuck with him. Like he doesn't mean anything. It's just to be like, yeah,
he's
someone
fucking
else
with
in the
me like
organization
60
knows.
years later. You know, like I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe
But
Gertrude just said that to troll people. You know,
I
like
think it's definitely worth saying as well. I can't help watching the scene without remembering the Simpsons parody of it as well. With
yeah, obviously,
Scorpio, you know,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
love that scene. That's one of my
What
favorite Simpsons
one
clips ever, man.
it's quite fun. It's quite funny because he like introduced like his laser, and he's like
Mm,
considerably more practical. And
mm,
I kind of we see later, which we'll talk about
mhm.
it pop
Yeah.
up. But I think compared to a car that has all those gadgets, it's not really like really practical. Like, what would you use a giant industrial laser like that for on a daily
Well,
basis?
can
But
DB5 break into Fort Knox?
we
Don't
didn't
think
get
so.
to see that. Maybe.
I wouldn't write it off that quickly, but you know, it's not like the laser single-handedly does it either. It plays a part.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, I know, but still.
but
And
anyway,
he makes a point of the fact it can project a spot on the moon, you know.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
and
when you need to do that.
yeah,
yeah, he just
exactly.
like he just draws like Goldfinger was here on the surface of the moon. You know?
Yeah. I think it's worth. I mean, obviously, we have one of the most famous lines of cinema history here when Bond goes, Bond's squirm. The back and forth here as well, because this is a point where the dynamic is just completely. Bond has nothing. He's just sat there. He's sweating. He's blagging. He's like really like. He's
Yeah,
really on the cops here,
his balls are literally on the line for this.
Literally, exactly. And he's there and he's finished, and Goldfinger, he's got all the cards now. He's like whatever. And the dialogue here is absolutely superb to
Yeah,
the
it's like,
point,
well, it's like, oh yeah, 008 will replace me. It's like, I'm sure he'll be more successful than.
yeah. There's so many. Not only is these lines, so there's a lot of Sigma line material here as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah, I love as
I'm
well,
sure he'll
like,
be more successful. Now he's the one mocking Bond,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he
and he
goes as
says like,
well.
well,
Yeah,
he knows what I know, and he's like, you know nothing, Mister.
yeah,
Just goes off to
yeah,
chat
And
with
then he
his mate,
says
like,
he says like one of my favorites from the scene is like, "There's nothing you can talk to me about with that I
yeah,
don't already know," and then
yeah.
like that's it.
And then, of course, the
the
big daddy of
climax.
them all. Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Which is just, you know, just great. And very Sigma as well.
Yeah,
Standard
yeah,
setting, yeah. Is like one thing I really like as well is like he goes on this like low key autistic rant about gold and like his
Yeah.
love for it, and he's like, I've been obsessed with its color and its divine eminence, blah blah blah, and
it's
then
the
he's
only
like,
thing he
dude,
loves.
he's literally, and then it's just all he cares. I will work with any enterprise that will increase my stock. Like that's a really Sigma line he's
Yeah,
got there.
Yeah,
I
the
like
He's a Sig.
billionaire
I,
grind set,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I like as well. Like it's just a little bit of like Gertford's acting here as well. Like the way, like get yourself a guy who looks at you like he does it gold, man. Like he literally looks at it like like it's his girlfriend or whatever. Like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
doesn't look at anyone else like that in this film. Like you really buy the fact that he is this invested in gold.
definitely. Gert Frobel is amazing in this film, man. I think it's worth obviously talking about how they technically achieved this shot as well. Because first of all, it was like very revolutionary for them to have like this laser on screen. If I'm not mistaken, it might be the first ever laser used on a film ever. I think that's. I unfortunately don't have the exact fact for you, but
Yeah, who
that's
knows?
no, that's actually proper though. That's the first like functioning laser or something they had. But obviously, to achieve the effect itself of the laser being
Yeah, they had a welder
gradually,
underneath, right?
yeah, there's a guy with a welder underneath, yeah, like a blowtorch basically
Yeah.
burning underneath, and then obviously on the top they added the effect in post, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, that's
obviously,
why you see the flame from above, like,
mhm,
yeah,
yeah,
pushing out
but
the top.
it's so cool, and the
It's such a good
tension,
effect,
the
though, as well.
music, oh.
Yeah.
Mate, there's two scenes in this film. There's this one, and then there's basically the scene at the end. But the tension, man, and like I remember this. I'll mention it at the end actually, but I just think and you really like, yeah, Bond's finished, man, and
Yeah,
then
like, I literally couldn't watch this. Like, that's how, like,
right there you go, and obviously like when we're kids, you don't really fully grasp what's on the line at that moment as well. But then there's a point in life where you kind of go, like that's why he was sweating so much. There's that as well, It's like literally gonna slice his fucking split his ball sack apart first, and then the rest of him. So
yeah.
yeah,
That would be, yeah, that would go up like that'd take a really long time to actually kill him, I think. Like
yeah, exactly,
that'd be
exactly.
Yeah, imagine
insane.
if they, if and when Saw X comes out, they should do this for real, but it actually does split someone open.
I think they effectively did that with the pendulum trap, right?
Yeah, and it would, like, also run for the entire film's runtime, like.
Yeah, yeah. This isn't it funny that we see more C and BT in Bond than we do in Saw?
Yeah, basically.
Anyway,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, and as well, like, yeah, he's like, oh yeah, when he says, oh, Operation Grand Slam, for instance, and he's like, yeah, well,
right,
you might have just overheard that, and then he's just
which he
like,
literally did.
yeah, he's like, oh, can't possibly mean anything to him. And he's like, Can you take that chance? And he's just like,
It's so good. It's so good because, like, no matter what, Bond tries to throw everything at him because, like you say, his life is on the line, man, and more. But and he's like he can't charm his way, he can't flirt his way out, he can't fuck his way out, he can't do anything. He's brown bread, man. And then he just pulls out. He's clutching at straws, man. Or the Italian the Italian version of that is like grasping at razors. It's much more
Oh, yeah.
extreme, but that's really what Bond's doing, clutching at razors, man. He's like, and he just throws out, yeah, because he's like, yeah, our 008 will replace me. He knows what I know, and nothing. He'll be more successful. Oh, what about Operation Grand Slam? And then Goldfinger correctly predicts that he goes, well, you probably just overheard that, and it means nothing to you or any members of your organization. And then all Bond can you afford to take that chance? And he just, I think they almost make eye contact, don't they?
yeah,
And
yeah. But then he like the thing is I don't get. It's like, well, it's not I don't get. It's like it almost like leads you into believing he doesn't care because he goes back to talking with them, and then he's like
yeah,
making
exactly.
a decision.
Yeah,
Music's still
he's
going
talking
on.
about what he's gonna have for dinner. But Goldfinger's like so in control, man. And what I love as well is that Bond says that he's played his last card basically, and Goldfinger he takes his time as well. He doesn't like sort of straight away switch on. He has a little chat, with the guy, and he's like, yeah, what like it's so the tension is unbelievable, man. And then eventually, and you see Goldfinger, he doesn't give a shit. He's laughing, man. He's like, oh yeah, that'd be funny, let's fuck with him a few more seconds, and then eventually gets it turned off, and the music and everything. Oh, and
He could have,
he's
like-
dead. Oh, and we're all Bond at that
Yeah.
moment. We're all like,
Well, he's like, well, you're more useful to me alive.
yeah,
Yeah, he could have really just like quizzed him about it honestly. Like he'd be like, oh, so what do you know about it? And then he's like, so the fact they left him
Yeah, well,
alive and said, yeah, we'll the fact he left him off is like, you're more worth to me alive. Like I feel like that, even that line, can you afford to take the chance, like didn't throw at him at all. So he probably came up with some ulterior plan or whatever, and he's like, yeah, actually let's keep him alive. I don't feel
Yeah.
like that line was what saved Bond.
And it's funny you mention that, Tom, because I think you're actually right, because he goes on to obviously add Bond into his plot, and the person he's speaking with is that Dr. Ling guy, isn't it?
Yeah, it
And
is. And
that's how Bond gets involved in Goldfinger's own scheme later on. I think you're right. I think maybe Dr. Ling suggests something, goes, well, what if we keep him alive? We can use him like this. And then Goldfinger goes, oh, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, that'd be
I don't
really
know.
funny.
That's a really good point, actually. That's something I know. This is why the Millionth podcast is what it is, man. Because this is the far out stuff we get to, the conclusions we come to, man. It's so good.
Yeah.
So
As well,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, he does like a little bit of a fake out, like with a
yeah,
guy,
and not
like,
only that, because he goes, "You're worth more to me alive," and then this guy comes with a massive gun and shoots him.
yeah,
But
yeah,
obviously,
yeah, which oh, is he dead? We'll find out.
yeah,
But in the
and
meantime,
yeah, but
yeah, yeah,
it's
but
time.
Tom, as you said, Goldfinger didn't quiz him, but I'm gonna quiz you.
I want to play a game.
So
Yep.
I will introduce you again to License to Quiz. I give you both 7 questions for you to battle it out so you can answer them more accurately. And so far, Tom has won both of them by increasingly smaller margins. But we'll see if James can.
yeah,
at
by
least...
by the trend of 2 films, we got that correlation.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
Well, it's 2-0, man. But in football, 2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline. So let's see if that's true.
yeah, I've heard that said. Yeah.
I'm ready.
there's
I'm
no-
confident, man. Henry, hit me.
All right, go on. Go on myself. So, first question for you two is, what was the size of the budget for this film at the time in dollars?
According to where, like IMDb, probably, right?
The first, yeah, essentially the first thing you look up.
What about Wikipedia? I've gone
What,
into
you
this
on there right
blind.
now, Tom?
Well, the
No,
budget
I'm
for
not.
Doctor
I've
No
never
was 1
cheated
million,
this.
right?
For Doctor No was 1 million. For Rush of
Okay.
Love was 2 million.
I'm gonna go with. Well, Tom, you go first.
I have no idea. I'm terrible with these budget things. if I had to guess, significantly more, but not like blockbuster. I'm just gonna say maybe 15 million. I'm not sure.
James?
I'm gonna go. Oh, it's tough, man. I want to say. I don't know. I have to go either higher or lower than Tom, and I want to say 20 million because there
I
was
was
a lot of
considering
expensive
that,
shit in
but-
this film, but 20 million was a lot of money back then. In the 60s, 15 million is such a good guess.
I can tell you that this was considered like a relatively large budget for a film back then.
I
Make of
think
that
I'm
what you
gonna
will.
go higher than what Tom said. I'm gonna go. 18 million.
Unfortunately, neither of you are even close, but Tom's closer. It was only 3 million.
Really?
Oh,
It's
man.
in
Wow.
modern day money, that was 26 million, but didn't
3
no.
million.
3 million. I mean,
Only
looking
three
at it, you
times more
wouldn't
than
think
Doctor No.
so.
That's
Like,
mental.
yeah,
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that bit in Switzerland was filmed in Pinewood, but we
Yeah,
don't know. So
makes sense.
anyway,
I was
so
just thinking the Aston Martins because they obviously had more than one there. I
Yeah.
thought, oh, surely
well,
a
it's
lot of
also
money
a
went into
product
that.
placement, man. Like, so they probably gave them for
Yeah.
either a
Well,
discount or for free. Like, I don't know.
yeah, I
A
suppose
free
you're right.
Aston
Yeah.
Martin.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's James Bond, man. Like, from much with love, by the way. It wasn't exactly like an unknown film. It was pretty made a decent amount of money. But speaking of the second question, how much money do you think this made at the box office?
Well, I'll go
Yeah, I'll give you a
first
hint. It was
because
more than $3 million.
Yeah, it made a
um,
profit. I'm gonna say
I think I think it was maybe about I'm not sure. Like I know it did really well, but not as well as others. I think maybe 350 million. I'm really not sure.
I'm gonna go. It won't have been that. I'm gonna go 90 million.
Well, that goes to James because you're relatively close. It was 125 million, which, if you
Wow.
convert to today's money, wait for it, is 1.17 billion.
Wow.
So that's a lot, if you didn't know.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I thought it'd be around 100 million. Yeah. Okay, I'll take
yeah,
that.
so you're both tied at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, if it was like 300 million back then, it would literally be like the highest grossing film ever. But anyway, so how much gold does Goldfinger actually have in terms of like total value? They mention it at some point during the film.
Um.
Like his net worth, effectively. Then
Yeah, basically. How much is bullion is worth?
I think it was like 60 million. I'm gonna go with
What
60
do you
million.
think, Tom?
Um. My mind's a blank on this one. Because when I was watching, I watched it sped up like towards the end because I was running out of time. But um.
God, that's sacrilege, man.
Oh no, I
Should
know,
just
I
deduct a
know,
point
but
for
like,
that.
um, no, I don't know. I'm honestly lost. I'm just gonna say, I know, $300 million. Go with the old number that I
Nah,
had.
James was far closer in this. That
Oh.
was it was 20 million,
20 million.
which
Okay.
yeah, even in
When did they
today's money,
say
that's
that, though?
188 million.
When
They
did they
said
say
it.
that? Though?
Colonel Smithers said so. If you paid attention
I
to
knew.
it,
I thought it would have been there. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the lead now. 2-1.
that's 2-1 to
Oh,
James. So
Enjoy it.
yeah, enjoy that
I
lead.
am.
Now, this is if you are paying attention, 007. What was the range on the Aston's radar?
Oh, the range.
I think I know this.
Well,
in
pretty good.
miles was it?
In miles.
I think I got. I know. I believe it was 80 miles.
80.
Hmm.
Is that correct, or should I guess, Henry?
You have to remember what Desmond Llewellyn said.
80 miles. I don't. I can't. It can't have been that much. But then I'm gonna go with lower. Then I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 79 miles. I know he doesn't say that.
No.
But at least that's close.
Tom was closer, but that's not even that close. 150 miles, so which is quite.
Oh, okay.
So that's 2 all between you. All right.
Okay.
So I would like you to see who can get Goldfinger's car more accurate. What model was it of a Rolls-Royce Phantom? Because Bond does mention
He
the
does.
full
Yeah,
name
man.
of it, essentially.
Oh, shit, man. All I remember is Rolls-Royce Phantom.
If neither of you can answer this, I've got a bonus question on top of this to ask you.
Mm.
I think
You can answer
no,
either
let me-
one of these for this one.
Oh,
How much
okay.
gold do you get out of it when you melt it down every time, according to Goldfinger?
Oh, I remember. It was 12. In what unit was it? It was 12 of whatever
In
unit.
tons.
12 tons.
Oh, I know that 2 tons.
That's all right, Tom. James, if it was a 12-ton car, I wouldn't be able to move. So
Yeah, I know, but
like-
2 ton is the weight of an average car, so surely
Yeah,
I would
but
think it's going
that
to weigh
doesn't-
more if it's a gold, right?
well, you should have
Like
been paying
a fucking
attention, you
Ford
know.
Fiesta's 2 tons or 1.5.
Imagine if it was you on that laser, bed, and he didn't tell you.
Yeah.
And he asked you how much gold does it weigh?
What
I
model
act-
was the car, by the way?
It's a Rolls-Royce Phantom 337, the 1937 model.
I was going to say Rolls-Royce Phantom 3, but it doesn't matter. You know what?
Oh.
Do you know how I know the weight of the car is? Because sometimes people use that, him saying approximately 2 tons when he's pointing at it, as an example of Goldfinger's so-called being dubbed, like, completely. Because his lips, according to them, his lips don't really move when he's saying that. So,
Oh.
Oh well,
he's
whatever
just kind of
whatever
pointing
does
at
it.
it.
All right. Well,
So James,
my
maybe
lead
you
lasted
enjoyed
for
your lead a
ages. I
bit
didn't
too
hit
much.
3
It's
to
now
them.
3-2 to Tom. Now there are still 2 more questions. This comes on later on in the film, but Bond knocks out a guard in his cell in a rather comedic fashion,
Hmm.
but then they put more in his cell to watch him
5.
afterwards, just to make sure. How many were
5.
there? James, you answered
I
immediately. What was it again?
5.
That's correct. Tom, you can't get any closer after that.
I fucking knew you'd answer that question, man. I was like, I thought, yeah, this is.
I had to make sure
I
as well,
made a
because,
point
like,
of counting.
there's one
Because
guy
there's
like he's
4,
like
and then the little
nearly
guy
off
comes
screen.
at the back, so there's a 5th one.
Yeah. There's like a guy who's nearly off screen at the start. Like
Yeah.
you had to make sure that. Sorry, Tom. You just in some of these, if you get it spot on, you got to be fast.
Here we go, but this is it. It's 3-3 now. This one for
This
the winner.
really is it. Now, this one you might have to be fast on. How much gold is in Fort Knox?
Oh, $16 billion.
15.
15.
Is that spot on, or can I guess now?
It's
I
spot.
thought I said
Fuck.
yes. Yeah.
If I
Well,
had to like settle that down, I'd have asked you how much it was in weight, but you know.
That
Oh well, I'm making progress, man. So obviously.
Well, James, did you know what the weight of that gold was? Just
No,
to
no.
no clue. Tom, did you know what it was?
I didn't have no clue at all. That involves some mad mental maths.
No,
for me.
but
Did they
Sean
mention
Connery
it?
mentions
But
it.
Bond
It's
does
10
say it. Yeah, I remember.
10,000.
Oh yeah, 200 tons, isn't it? Is
No,
it?
10,500, man. That's a
Whatever,
lot.
man.
15 billion
I know.
back then, man. Like,
We'll cut the quiz there so I look as good as possible when it
yeah,
comes to knowledge.
sure thing, you know. Well, again, this is continuing the trend of James is creeping closer and closer to that eventual possible dub.
Yeah, 3-0 down. No. It's
We'll
like
have to
it's
see,
a bit of a hill
but
to climb, isn't it?
for future reference, don't go looking up any box office numbers in the future.
No, I
Just
kept away from
I'll
them.
catch you if
Yeah,
you get it very accurate immediately. But
Okay.
anyway,
You can tell I wasn't doing that because I missed the mark by quite a big margin both times. So I'm innocent of that, thankfully.
as Q says many times, pay attention 007, especially next time.
Yep.
So that was licensed to quiz.
Thank you, Henry. So now we return to the plot. So Bond wakes up with
He wakes up to start with.
He wakes up with in the presence, in the gaze of pussy galore.
God. I want to talk to Ian Fleming first thing. Like, why did you name that? Like, come on, man.
Oh, was that Ian Fleming's fault?
Well, I assume so because he wrote the book. So, in which she's also a lesbian. So, you know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. Actually, that's true.
James Bond, does conversion therapy, but by being a good enough shag, I guess.
Yeah,
must be.
it's really like it's funny, like because when you see her, the first thing I noticed about her is like her face is like doing a somersault. It's like she's trying not to laugh or
Yeah.
something. It's like
yeah, just
it's like doing
yeah.
Mexican wave or whatever, and then like I'm wondering if like she was told like what her character name was right before she went on set to
Yeah,
shoot.
literally.
Yeah,
She's trying not
exactly.
to laugh
Yeah,
about
that's
it.
my name.
It's really weird, and like, because Pussy Galore is like, you know, generally one of the most famous, but and like one of the highest rated
infamous.
Bond girls. But I actually don't really think she's that good. This might be a bit of
Yeah.
a
Me too,
controversial
actually.
take, but I'm not really like she. I don't. She doesn't sell it to me. First of all, she appears like halfway through the film. Secondly, the actress Honor Blackman. Yeah, she's sexy, but I don't think she's a
They make
great
they make a
actress.
thing like about the fact that Honor Blackman's playing, Pussy
Yeah,
Galore.
yeah, that's like a big deal, and I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, she's like I will say like the one in my opinion, just a bit of foreshadowing almost. I do think the one thing that Thunderball is better than Goldfinger on is Bond girls. Like they have some really top tier Bond girls for me, and like femme fatales and stuff going on in that film. I think as well might be controversial, but
Well,
Well, we'll
we'll
get
rank
to talk
them.
about
So
that next week. But for
yeah, we'll get
now,
to rank them. That's going to be an
yeah,
interesting one, though. I'm
yeah,
very
I think I
critical when
share the
it comes to
sentiment
Bond
though
girls
that
because there are some like really exceptional ones, and then there's a lot of shit ones. Yeah, so we'll get there anyway.
but I mean,
Pussy Galore for me is just overrated. That's all I'll say.
yeah. But to
Um,
be fair, this is this is like I love the great like the first line immediately is like she just says like, "Hey
yeah,
Zara, like who are you?" Like, my name's Pussy Galore. He's like, "I must be dreaming," like.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Also worth mentioning, Honor Blackman for a long, long time was the oldest Bond girl as well, right? She was in her 40s, I believe, when she did this. 40 or
40s.
41? Yeah, she was 40
No
or
way.
41, I think. Yeah.
I
Um,
swear, I never knew. This is crazy. If she's actually in her 40s
yeah.
during this.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, for sure. She was in her 40s. She was the oldest Bond girl until Monica Bellucci in Spectre, Henry's favourite film.
Yeah, my
So,
favorite. Love Christoph Waltz.
one
But
thing I
anyway,
love about this scene, moving on a little bit from Pussy Galore, I mean, we do get a few like nod, wink, wink that she is lesbian.
yeah, it's like you can turn off the charm. I'm immune.
Yeah,
Hit
she even says
Wink,
something
wink.
before that as well, which implies that I can't remember what it was though. It escapes me now. But anyway, we also have her underling Mai Lee, um, and with her like strange costume.
Yeah.
Um, but what I really like is that Bond asks about his attaché case, which unfortunately didn't
Yeah.
survive the journey, and it was like, oh, it's like that's very, it's like it's quite hidden there, and I never picked up on it originally, but like watching it, it's like, oh, that's such a cool little nod to From Russia with Love, and it's just it's a shame. It's just cool that they acknowledged it, I thought that was very
Yeah,
nice stuff.
it's
Yeah,
they never
and
bring it up later on. It's a shame that it didn't become like a recurring thing. But
Mm.
imagine like Daniel Craig walking around with it, he'd probably get like spat on or something.
Yeah, briefcase wanker, that's the
Exactly.
problem. In
it
between
is
his ruined
is
briefcases.
Yeah,
you can
you
imagine
couldn't imagine Pierce Brosnan with one, like, could you?
Yeah, yeah.
you
I
can
thought you said
imagine
Piers
like
Morgan for some reason. I was like,
Yeah,
no, I
Piers
could.
Morgan.
He's a briefcase wanker
like
without a briefcase.
Yeah.
But
it's
anyway,
like you can imagine it being handled and like wet by someone and then it just blew up in their face and they just threw it away or something.
yeah.
Maybe or
I
maybe
reckon,
do you reckon
because I think like obviously that would have been in the boot of his Aston Martin when it crashed in Auric Enterprises. So someone must have gone and picked it up and gone, okay, and then like accidentally the knife shot out or something, or like, oh yeah, we're definitely not giving this back to him.
Yeah, or maybe Odd Job opened it, tear gas fly, and he didn't phase him. He's just like still
He
smiling,
breathed it. He was like inhaled it, man.
Yeah, it's like fresh air, like.
Yeah, I thrive. This makes me stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. I think, and you don't even know, man. Maybe that fell into the hands of like opposition, and the Russians then developed their own attaché cases because they got their hands on one.
do you
Yeah.
I don't know.
do you reckon like do you reckon they took the gold sovereign zone and gave it to Goldfinger?
Yeah,
It was like,
definitely.
oh yeah, we
Definitely.
found this.
For sure.
Yeah,
That got melted
yeah.
down into like a new hubcap for his car or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, I'm still fuming. I lost it that license to quiz, man. I should have won that. Well, anyway. So yes, Bond. This is great as well because Bond. He's getting all like to look the part for his meeting with Goldfinger later on. And what's cool is that he's in his little cabin sort of thing. Pussy goes and sells. I can't. I have to say this out loud.
Miley.
Yeah, she tells Miley to go and like keep an eye on him.
Yeah, that's
Bond,
the
it's
thing.
really cool. Bond pulls out the little Homer from his razor, and then puts it in his shoe, which is really cool. Like it slides up and stuff. And it reminds me of when I was a kid. I don't know if
I know what you're gonna talk about.
yeah, we had those there was that cool like shoe which had like you could lift up the sole like and then there's like little compartment you could put a toy in there,
Yeah,
and
that was pretty
kind of
sick.
reminded me of that,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it reminds me of as well. There's like one shoe I had like that, and then like they never made them again. I was like, yeah,
That was
I'd
so
probably still
cool, man.
get
That
something.
was so cool. I felt like James Bond wearing them.
Yeah,
That was
the
like-
problem
that
is
was
that
like-
if they made them for like adults, they probably just put like a bit of like meth in there or something. Like.
Definitely, man. That's like the ultimate drug dealer shoe, man. But yeah,
exactly.
It's like the.
Yeah, the coin. Yeah, they're my
Oh,
ketamine
one thing-
5000s.
One thing
Anyway.
Go on,
actually, on a bit of a different subject, one thing I do like is they play into. Bond gets to like have a little talk about why it's the wrong gun that he's being pointed at.
Oh,
like,
yeah, you're
like
right.
Pussy Galore.
Smith
So-
and Wesson.
and I really like it. Like you can like I like it when James Bond gets like a bit where he gets to go into his expertise and stuff because he's like
Mansplaining.
that's
Yeah,
what he is.
literally.
He's like he's a specialist when it comes to
Yeah.
guns. You'd like
Especially when it comes to
and-
everything, man.
yeah, but especially guns because it's his job. So I like it when they actually get to do that. So James Bond isn't really like a blank slate in these films. He's like gives him a bit more character for me anyway. So
Yeah.
I like that.
What I like as well is that in Doctor No from Russia with Love, we had a scene of him in each of those films looking. He's in like a hotel room or something, and he's looking around, scanning for like, tapping devices or like spy holes, or whatever. And in this case, we see that, but like in a very different format because he's there, and he is being spied on actively, and the way he like casually combats each one. And then the little
Yeah.
music cue again. I love the music in this film. Just the
Yeah,
little
the thing is-
effects they put in. It's so good
two
because she's
things-
spying on him. So the
Yeah.
first one is like he hangs up the coat in front of them, and then he opens up the
Yeah,
suitcase, and then the last one he sprays the shaving foam on it. I love it.
Yeah, the thing that I don't get is though, like, why would Goldfinger have this on his private jet? Like, oh, just in case I bring someone who needs
Yeah,
to be
good
spied
point.
on in my cabin.
Well,
And-
Goldfinger is very extra. That's one thing we can
Yeah, true.
definitely. He's so extra, man. He spares no expense at like being
Yeah,
prepared,
he doesn't have to,
being impressing people and stuff. He's very sophisticated like that.
And the thing
I
is
reckon
as well,
Or maybe he's just a pervert, like.
yeah,
there's that
maybe.
as well.
But also one thing as well, like Bond has clearly learned his lesson from For Russia with Love, like checking for fake mirrors, like just in case. Like,
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah, there's that as well. What, you think he's gonna tug one out there or something? Just-
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got
Get
this.
my
It's like,
Liam.
I got this film of you. Like I'm gonna send it to the CIA after you die or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. Yeah, it's like at the end, like, oh, Goldfinger, yeah, I've got you, man. He's like, but I have this tape of you jacking off. I'm gonna send it to M, like all your girlfriends.
Yeah.
Anyway. By the way, when Bond steps out there in that grey three-piece suit, looks amazing. So yeah, that's probably
Well,
the
dapper.
moment where like Pussy Galore started rethinking her sexuality. I don't know.
It's funny,
Maybe, yeah.
like one thing that I really like that I find funny is like when you get this kind of camera shot of like these little horse races and stuff, and it's got this really like weird like old timey American music. It's like
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
it's
Yeah.
when
real Billy
James
shit,
Bond
man,
comes
yeah.
out of the card, like he just steps out and there's like class music playing.
Yeah, that's a
and he's like,
great point.
he's come to like
That's a
he's just
great point.
he's just come to like re-establish like
To
civilization there or something.
recolonize America.
Yeah. Although something that you failed to mention is there's a scene in between this where like they actually like they land
yeah.
right, and then like him and him and Pussy Galore have like like a bit of back and forth as well.
Yeah,
like
that's right.
you know.
And she's very cool, you know, because he's like, "Oh, mind your step, Captain," and then she like takes off the jumper, and there's a gun underneath. Like, yeah, keep playing it easy, you know, like it is good. And
Yeah,
then,
as well
but
as
then
like
it's a really stupid moment because then you see like, you know, basically Pussy's pilots, man, and it's just like these planes which definitely inspired in Captain Scarlet, right? But like,
I was thinking of like, you know, the thing from Octopussy in the start. They're similar. They're
Yeah.
very similar. Like the
Oh,
flying
dude.
circus planes.
Yeah, Pussy
No,
Galore, Pussy's Flying
no way,
Circus
man.
versus
I know they're
Octopus's
not the same. They
Circus.
just look very similar. Like because they're like, you know, they're like tiny, man.
No, that doesn't remind me of that at all. That always reminds me of Captain Scarlet and the Angels.
Maybe. Yeah.
But anyway,
Oh my
but
days,
then
man.
it's
When
just
they get when they get
ridiculous. This is definitely like again one of those moments that you're just like, this is just really like stupid. You know, you've got like
unnecessary.
these planes pull up I think it's weird because it's sexist, but then it's also feminist at the same time. It's
Yeah, because
weird.
like, oh
You know,
yeah,
'cause
they've got these
Bond
eight
goes, oh
spikes.
yeah, these are fine chaps, you know, like oh great, you know. And she's like, yeah, they are. I trained them, and then it turns out they're all like young blonde women, like, and it's
Yeah, with like
and they've got this
traffic
like
cones.
sexy music and stuff. They're
It's like the
coming
most,
out.
yeah,
It's like,
most
I don't
over
know,
the top saxophone music. I'm
really,
just like
yeah,
dying here of like 60s overdose, you know, like I'm like, come on, man.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's,
that kind of
just
takes you
cut
out the
this scene, you
film
know.
a
It's one
bit.
of them, you know, that gif where it's like,
Yeah, just like stop.
yeah.
Yeah, just to remind you you're in the 60s, basically.
It's almost
Take you
like
out
they tried to do something feminist and then just like made it even more
Fail.
sexist. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, then again, like the last thing as well, like with before Bond gets in the car, like
Mhm.
to go off to the country club, like he's like, oh, you know, like odd job kills little girls like you, and then she does
Oh
like,
yeah,
yeah, little boys too, you know, and
yeah,
then just like
that's
sends
right.
them up.
And just
By
before
the
Bond
way,
does arrive at Oryx Stud,
yeah,
we do get a little conversation between M and Felix Leiter, who is chilling out. He is hanging out at 1960s Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah,
That
this
gets me
first time I
every
noticed that.
time, man.
Did you?
How
oh
cool
no
What are
is
you
no
gonna
that?
no,
say, Tom? By the
that's
way.
that's that's a different part of the film. I think he's
No,
caught hanging out.
you
He's
see
right
him twice,
outside.
but he's hanging out at KFC for like a significant amount of time.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's really funny for me
Isn't
because
it?
like it just shows like the Americans being lazy and stuff, just hanging out and not like. I mean, fair enough. Like anyone would probably do that, but of course, like in this English film, they'd show the Americans like being lazy and like you see him there. It's pretty funny. You can see he's got a gut as well. He's just like, I know,
Yeah.
it's so
It's so
funny.
good, man. And like, yeah, they're
Um,
hanging out at KFC, but obviously back then, you know, it would have been like battery chickens and all that shit. You know, it's like, but still, what do you reckon? Here's a quiz for you, Henry. What do you reckon? What do you reckon? What do you reckon? Felix Leiter's order was at KFC. Do you think he's like a bit of a? Does he like wings or boneless strips? You know, or
No,
is
he
he
definitely had like a family bucket, you know, like.
popcorn chicken man? You know.
I
Do
don't
you
know.
think he
I
has to
would no.
crush him at the
I
end?
know this. I've never actually really been to KFC before. I've only been once with you. That was it. I never actually got anything.
I
Wow.
never actually been myself. I've eaten it once because someone brought it, but like I
Like
never went.
shoplifted,
I
Wow.
didn't like
dine and dash.
physically go there before. Yeah.
That's
What do
crazy,
you,
man. I love. Well, I mean, I'm vegan now, but before I was like, I used to love KFC, man. Even though it's pure shit, you know. I mean, I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't recommend trying it, but I mean, you know, oh, mate. Anyway, let me not
one
reminisce about it.
Yeah,
But I just find it
unrelated.
funny, like, but this is back when KFC probably was a bit more of like, I mean, the whole world was a bit more kind of uh, I don't know, fashionable or better dressed, you know, because you got the guys in the suits and stuff. And this KFC wasn't KFC; it was Kentucky Fried Chicken,
Yeah, it's
and
the
it was like a
Colonel's
nice
recipe on the
restaurant. You
side.
know, it's probably a bit more prestigious than it was now. You know, but yeah. Anyway, I think yeah, we've spent enough time talking about KFC.
Yeah, for the
So
it's
amount of
this,
promotion they got from it.
there's a really funny like wait, there's a really funny like line I think where he pulls up at the ranch and stuff, and then Goldfinger's like uh he's like oh, she's a beauty, isn't she, talking about the animal. Bond
Yeah,
has like a
yeah,
Sigma quote. He's like, certainly better bred than the owner.
yeah,
But
exactly.
I got that later and it was just really funny to me.
Yeah, I know. But then like
Sorry, lads, I lost you there for a minute. Did
yeah,
that?
no, you died for a second, but it's fine. Like
Oh,
Tom
it's
and I
okay.
we're just going on about Goldfinger, Bond just insulting him, like by saying, yeah,
Yeah,
it's great horse there. Shame about the owner, basically, like.
yeah, it's certainly
No, no,
better
no.
bread than the owner.
And they
That was
said,
good.
yeah, better bread
shot.
than the owner.
And that's where Goldfinger's like, "Fuck you, man." Show him to his quarters,
Yeah, I
and
should
it's
have
like,
killed you back at the laser site.
Yeah,
yeah.
like it is.
Having said
it's,
that, having
there's
said
a
that,
there's a
Bond's prison
criticism of
cell, it's like meant to be this really gritty, like like unpleasant place. But now that would probably be like a room in like quite a nice like castle resort or something, wouldn't it? It's like that'd be quite looks quite cozy actually. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, literally like, $8 grand a month in London, renting
yeah,
Yeah.
underneath someone's stairs.
Yeah, man.
like there's this actually where some people have something to criticize the film about actually, because of an argument they say is that James Bond for most of the second half doesn't do anything. He just gets captured and then just
That's not true.
he just kind of
actually.
hangs around. And I know it's not entirely true, but like I'm being devil's advocate in a way, just like saying what these people say about it. And it was something else I was going to say, but
I
yeah,
do
I'll probably
agree with
get
you
back
there.
to me
There
later.
was a moment with me where I was kind of like, yeah, he's a bit of a passenger for a lot of this film, but like I said before, I think it's a good thing because Bond, he fails a lot in this film, and
That's
that's
what
actually
that's
quite
what
it's
boosts the
quite.
stakes, really.
Sorry.
That's what boosts the stakes a lot. Like,
Yeah, he makes
tries to get a
mistakes a lot.
message to
Yeah.
lighter, and this is the thing that Goldfinger does as well. He's like, he literally is more valuable to him alive because then what he's on like the private jet, of Goldfinger's, and then like M takes this as a great sign. He's like, oh yeah, he's well in there.
That's right.
Lighter sees him chilling with him, and he's like, oh yeah, he's totally fine. He's got us under control. When like, he's like, yeah, send help, please, and then.
Yeah.
Like literally, like they don't suspect anything until the basically the whether or not the world is saved by this relies on Bond's pulling game essentially. But
Pretty much. So then we get Goldfinger's meeting basically, which is like, again, one of the epic moments in this film.
yeah, like the
Um,
proper no villain yet really has had like a proper time to explain like his grand plan. I mean, Doctor No does a bit, but he doesn't get like the whole diorama, like miniature set, the whole darkened room and the bombastic speech,
mhm.
it's
And all
just,
the gadgets and stuff. He's in this room and he's like the snooker pool table is like moving and this map comes on the wall and then a miniature of Fort Knox rises from the floor. It's so cool, man. Like Goldfinger's been playing this it's so extra. But what I like is like this the genuine businessman with him as well because like he's got to convince these guys. He's got all these guys who hate each other to work together without knowing it. And then like getting them all to invest in this thing behind each other's backs and then goes, okay, yeah, I owe you all $1 million, but you can have $1 million today or 10 million tomorrow, and this is how I'm going to sell it to you. He's basically doing like a massive Dragon's Den,
yeah, it's
and
just a
he's like,
pitch meeting, yeah.
yeah, it's crazy, man. He pulls out all the stocks. It's really amazing. It's one of those
Yeah.
scenes, and it's so over the top. Looking at it now, it's so like but this is like pioneering for the
Yeah, it
time.
was so I don't know. I really like seeing it again as well because Bond's like he's escaped to the cell by this point, but he's like listening to it, but from literally underneath the Fort Knox model. But the thing I love as well, like the thing that Goldfinger kind of opens with the fact that they have human achievements. Like he's
Yep.
gone to the bottom of the ocean. He's fired rockets into space at the moon. They haven't landed on the moon by this point.
Split the atom.
Yeah, exactly. Split the atom. Like it's been achieved in like the zenith of human achievement has been achieved in every field except crime. Like
Except
really love that.
crime. Sigma grinds it.
What?
Man.
What? Yeah,
I love
he
that
got
line.
like another. He got like another. I love about this scene is it portrays like it's quite accurate for how sophisticated investors are. Basically, it's like, it's like you owe me this, and then they basically have to be calmed down. And one thing I really love, which is also a Sigma quote, is like Goldfinger's like a Sigma machine in this thing for quotes and stuff. He's like. Whereas like there are 35,000 troops stationed around there. He's like 41,000, and then I really like that. But his plan is just to
Yeah, I've
deal
actually
with it.
counted them myself. As you
Yeah,
can see,
exactly.
gentlemen, there are 41,000 troops on this diorama.
It's brilliant. What's also fantastic, I always love this from when I was a kid, man. When I watched this when I was 7 years old, man. When Bond's in the way Bond gets out of jail here, man, it's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so good, and it's so like I feel like no one could pull that off apart from Sean Connery. You know, like he's there, he's
No
like
other Bond actor could have done this.
he's walking back and forth in his cell from the door and then away from it and then back, and he goes up there. He's making eye contact with the guard. You
Yeah,
know,
he's like one. It's like 2 doors.
yeah, does a little, and then comes back, gives him a wink, and then like goes down, and then the guard, and he just like fucks with this guard so well. He's like, and meantime he's like scrabbling to like get up on the roof. How he does that, I don't know, but we'll let it
Yeah,
slide.
with no noise either. Like,
Yeah.
don't know how.
I think
But,
like
I just love it because it totally works, and that would work on anyone. Like, of course,
Yeah.
you'd go and like, what's going on now?
The only thing I think, like, the only other Bond actor I think who could have pulled off this might have been Roger Moore. You think, like, maybe?
Yeah, it would have been. But I think there's something about Sean Connery's face when he does the smile and then
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's so good. Man.
And the music
it's
as well,
really-
like,
yeah, the
little cues
music
and everything.
Yeah.
This guard, man, he's not paid enough for this shit. He's just this guy's like
Yeah.
winding him up.
And once again, it's that little music like effect with the gold sort of sound. It's so good. It's so good, man. And the wink, I love it. He literally
Yeah,
winks
yeah.
his way out of jail. I mean, he does obviously have to take the guy down and fight him and stuff. It's cool.
Yeah, the
like,
guy who didn't
it's really-
scream loud enough.
it's a really silly way to escape prison, but like at least he doesn't have to climb through any boiling metal pipes with like radioactive water going through it and stuff like that. So
true. He can escape prison and look fashionable in doing so.
one thing
Very much so.
I'd like to add on to that though is I reckon in this film, and it's personally you might like it, you might not. Personally, I don't like it as much, but when I think this is the beginning of where James Bond kind of becomes like kind of untouchable, kind of. In the previous 2 films, like he gets really badly like beaten up and stuff. Like you can see like in Dots No, he gets like he's like his clothes are rags and he's got like a blood stain there, and then he get in From Russia with Love, he's like all bloody and stuff from the fight with Red Grant. Like you really get the impression that he's had to like fight his way through everything there, and like here it kind of I don't know, you probably have to look at it quite closely to notice it, but I feel like he's not really like, I don't know, it feels like because of that it kind of draws away a bit from the threat to James Bond personally. Like he gets out.
But this is his whole thing. Like James Bond in this film, he's literally larger than life. Like he's like this is the fantastical element of like this film. It's just like it's because Goldfinger's kind of like he's like like the over the top kind of villain, and then Bond in a way he's not over the top in a bad way, but it's like
No, I actually disagree with both of you. I mean, I think visually he's not so obviously under threat. He's not covered in blood or anything like that, or his clothes are ripped. But he sweats buckets in this film, man. There are several moments where he's really under the cosh, more so than it. Think about the moments of tension you experience just on the laser table alone. That is more so than you felt for him in Doctor No or From Russia with Love, right? So I agree that he looks more glamorous in these films, sure, in this one, but I think the actual threat level is much higher. I think they just do less damage. They just show less damage on him, so it kind of tricks you into believing that he's like untouchable. But he's really up against it in a lot of times. And like I said, he fails a lot in this film as well, including in this one.
Like probably
he appears under the Fort Knox thing. You just see his eyes there, and he's writing down notes, and then gets literally his legs taken out from underneath him by Pussy Galore. And it's like he gets.
he literally eats shit, man. He like slams into the.
Oh, that was painful. The sound effect for that, by the way, it's like, oof,
Yeah, they probably made him do it for real or something. Or Bob Simmons stood in, I don't know.
Yeah.
As well, though, like, then again, I think probably, is that the laser table or when Red Grant literally has to make, like, proper gunpoint across the room that, like, those must be the 2, like, most tense parts so far. Like, because, like, I mean, most of the time, you just wrestle a gun off of someone, but like Red Grant does not let him, like, like put your hand, like, don't get up, don't move anything, like, because he's not a moron, unlike your average henchman. But anyway,
So anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
back to Goldfinger's meeting. He's there and he tells, he's like, yeah, he's got everyone on board except for Mr. Solo. So he stands up and he goes, he's like the really thick one of this group, but also not in a way. But it's weird because he's like, nah, I don't, I'm out. I'll just take my million now. And the other guy's like poking fun of, oh, that's too big for you, whatever.
Yeah, well, that's actually kind of useful for Goldfinger because like they're
Yeah.
shaming this one guy, and it means that none of them else are going to go out. Otherwise, they'll be shamed too.
Right. So anyway, so Goldfinger goes, oh, we need to respect his decision. Let me just take care of him now.
Yeah, take great care of
And
it.
then, like, it's weird because Solo technically lives longer than all the others because they all get immediately gassed. It's like, why did Goldfinger go to the trouble of, like, I know Goldfinger's really extra, but this is, like, really, really extra, man. He goes to the trouble of, like, getting this guy escorted away, put in, like, a compact crusher, right? And then, like, returns and then has to go through the trouble of, like, separating the gold from all of that. It's like, he could have just locked them in and like gassed them, and he's just explained this plot thing for people he knows are going to die in 10 minutes. It's like the most. I don't know.
Well, if he hadn't done that, then he wouldn't have been able to get rid of Bond's little message to the CIA. So
That's true.
then again, Bond would have been able to send it.
That's true.
I mean, maybe this might be a reason as to why they made Goldfinger British. With the whole gassing people thing.
That's what I was going to say, and with the Nazi gold as well. I think there were too many connotations there for them. I think they must have gone like, yeah, let's just make it British. Just like, let's just okay. Because
I think like
probably quite sensitive.
It's really touching. I think the reason why it's like that is for Mr. Solo is because I don't think Goldfinger was really kind of. It felt like he was kind of improvising a little bit. Like his plan to dispatch of Mr. Solo individually, like seemed like a lot more improvised. He probably would have. For me, he gets Solo out and then obviously puts him in the car. He must have, I don't know, whispered something to Oddjoy's like, yeah, shoot this guy or whatever. And it just kind of comes off a bit like that, but also he's like so intent on getting his gold and stuff, and this just adds to his character. Like he like goes to the trouble of like separating it later so he can get it back or having it separated. And the fact he loads in real gods is just so Mr. Solo would go along with it, in my opinion. Otherwise, if he doesn't see it, he'd have been like, probably would have been umming and ahhing about it more.
Well, this is actually something I've just thought of now, really. In a similar way to how, like Red Grant said, a lot of Red Grant references in this, but, how I do it is up to me. With I think maybe he just let Oddjob take some liberties here because I think that him crushing the golf ball and crushing Solo and that is not really a coincidence.
No, you're wrong, mate. Maybe this isn't the first time Goldfinger's done this. Perhaps, right?
He's just like, oh yeah, I know a guy down the road.
Oh, he's got pressing engagement, and maybe that was his code word to Oddjob to go and do that.
Maybe, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe, but like it's so touch and go. Like when he misses the highway and goes down this random offbeat path, like I'm sure Mr. Solo, if he had like one extra brain cell, could have like bailed out of the car and run off.
Yeah,
because
it's not too bright.
Oddjob's not going to exactly. Oddjob's not going to run after him, and at least he has a chance to get away.
Oddjob's
Oddjob would just
80 miles an hour. I don't think so.
The thing is, as
well, one at a time.
He's not going to jump out of the car going 80 on the freeway on the motorway, is he? So
no.
Yeah, and also Oddjob would just hit him with the hat in it. So
he goes maybe, but like he doesn't know that. So, but not on the motorway. But when he goes down like the little like off-beaten roads, I mean that's when I said he could have like maybe try and run off, but like
maybe he just thinks he's a moron though, like because he's like you blind, you didn't see that way's the airport, and when he went to stop, maybe he thought he was gonna turn around.
Yeah, good point.
As well, the thing is that I liked as well in this, I only really noticed this time, is like the Oddjob's driving him through some proper busy roads, and then there's loads of people around. Then he drives off, and there's like less and less cars going by, and then it's like, oh, like obviously he's gonna kill him, but then it's just like the dread setting in, like the fact that
the music's great as well. I think the music in this scene is amazing as well.
Yeah, because he shoots him, and then it goes in with the Goldfinger theme.
And it's cool because he takes him. We see like the scrapyard thing happen, like crushing the car, and then like just posts out the little Wall-E brick, and then pops it in the pickup truck, that Oddjob's got waiting there. So this is definitely not the first time, Goldfinger's sent someone on a pressing engagement, because that's all prearranged, man. Like
exactly.
the dodgy guys at the fucking like scrapyard are in on this as well, clearly.
Well,
So,
the thing is though, like I noticed this time, you can clearly see like there's no one in that car. Like obviously maybe they could have put a dummy in it or anything, but like during the actual crushing, like.
yeah, but he would have been slumped down in the back seat, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know really. Maybe he was
Yeah.
like down at the bottom.
Anyway,
Yeah, Mr. Solo wasn't lucky.
yeah, exactly. He did last longer than the others, though. So, anyway,
Yeah.
so then Bond shows up and he's like, "Yeah, I enjoyed your speech." Basically, lets out the bag that, yeah, you're right. I didn't know anything about Operation Grand Slam, but now I do. And then, but what I love is that like he's like really thinks he's smart. He's going to Goldfinger's like, "Yeah, I enjoyed your speech," and then Goldfinger just goes, "So did I."
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you
Walks
can't
off.
touch the guy, man.
Yeah, because
He's-
like
well-
he's just like I killed everyone.
Yeah, I killed him. I enjoy killing him.
Yeah, exactly. And also for those who haven't seen the film as well, like what are you doing here otherwise? Bond had put like a little message like after hearing what happened, what Goldfinger said about the plan. He slipped it on Mr. Solo with like the little tracker which sent Lysa and his mate to go interrupt their KFC dinner, and then
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, then they were like, oh, the tracker's gone off. I must have turned it off. Like
Yeah. Oh,
great.
Mechanical failure.
Yeah,
Paris
clearly.
thought
I
we
love
should
seeing,
go and
like-
take action. Yeah.
The Americans just being so inept in all of this.
Yeah,
is
and
just
gullible, man.
great.
Because
I mean,
Goldfinger
Yeah,
even
like-
predicts, he's like, yeah, because basically someone comes to him and goes, oh yeah, there's some couple of blokes in the bushes over there, and he goes, they're probably racing touts looking for tips, and then he goes, or could be, another thing. So then he gets gets Bond and gets Pussy Galore to like slut out basically, and then like show up again. And it's cool because you have a little moment as well with Goldfinger and Pussy Galore where she's talking about retirement plans and stuff. So that's like interesting. But
yeah, it makes them feel like more fleshed out characters.
yeah, just slightly more. Yeah,
Slightly.
Yeah,
but still.
yeah, not just for the ridiculous name, but anyway.
yeah. So then, yeah. So he goes and sends for Bond, who's sat there like it's so funny.
It's such a funny
He's
scene.
sat there
man.
like in the corner, like yeah. And he's got like a gun in his face, basically, and like five guys like guarding him. Man, it's so funny.
Yeah, and as well, like the little I don't know, I don't know if it's a saxophone piece, just like the little thing just makes it even funny with the music.
Yeah. He's just sat there like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
so
he's
like,
just chilling.
Over the
Literally
top.
can't like blink without. Yeah, it's so like uncomfortable, man. But anyway, Goldfinger gets him out. They have a bit of like we get the classic like Bond villain explanation now of like the whole plot. Like
Yeah, because he says this is the thing. Because he says, well, did a bit of maths of my own. $15 billion is 10,500 tons, which would take 60 men, 2 days to load onto however many 200 trucks or whatever. And you got 2 hours before the Navy turn up. And then Goldfinger goes, like who said anything about us taking it? And this is my bomb figures out. Oh, the Chinese guy lent him a bomb, like a nuke. And the thing is, or a nuclear device. They never confirm it's a nuclear bomb, but you know
it's
what
an
it is.
atomic device.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
As Goldfinger puts it.
My mistake. But the thing is, in the Goldfinger book, that wasn't the plot. It was just he was going to nick stuff from Fort Knox. They didn't have the whole
I think that's just such a great edge to the plot. And,
yeah, it makes it so much better. I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's fantastic.
As if it was just I'm robbing Fort
And
Knox.
it's great that we can all be Bond basically at this moment where he realizes that he's like, wow, so that'll increase the value of your stock, and it's like, yeah, by 1,000%.
I approximate
He's like-
10 times.
Yeah.
He's like, I conservatively
Yeah,
estimate
conserv-
12.
Yeah,
so
and also
he's,
just,
it's
this is that
fun fact.
historical context I wanted to mention as
Oh
well.
yeah, go on.
The reason this would have been even worse for the West at this point because following World War II, they all basically got together and decided, all right, all like basically major countries like the Western ones said, we're gonna say that our money is worth X amount of dollars, and the dollar will be worth this much gold. So the Americans would keep all this gold in Fort Knox, basically so that their money is worth real like stuff because they could exchange it for gold. And that way that basically the whole economic system of the world worked. So if someone were to irradiate all that gold, the dollar would become worthless all of a sudden, and then everyone else's currency would become like, worthless all of a sudden as well. So, everything would go to shit. So that's what Goldfinger's referencing here. But I don't know. I don't know how. Like,
with that context, probably would have been worth far more than 10 times then.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how up to date the audiences were on like the Bretton Woods economic system by then, but they would have just thought, yeah, this is probably bad. This will affect the economy.
There's a fun fact, by the way, that I'm not sure if you know, or figured out because you didn't need to look anything up for it. But he says that it will be contaminated for 58 years, and that actually takes us to 2024.
Yeah. No, 2022.
2024, I think.
No, that would be 2022.
Yeah, 2022.
If it was 60
Whatever.
years.
To the current day, pretty much.
No, if it, yeah.
Wow.
Nearly.
That's mad. Great points on. That's really interesting.
Well, yeah, then they could use the gold then. Well, then again, I think they would have gotten around it eventually, like using some way of decontaminating it. But
the thing is with this though, is like, okay, yeah, I've praised this plot a lot, but I do want to actually, just because it's radiated, it's still there, right? It's not like
but when no one
they
will
can't
want to
physically use it, but it is there. So, and eventually it'll be fine again. So, does that really make it worth this? I don't know.
Not really. Imagine if they told you they were going to freeze your bank account for 6 years. Like the money's still there, but
Yeah, true. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
So then Bond goes for a casual stroll with Pussy Galore, and then they go to the barn, and they do a bit of judo in there.
Yeah, literally, like the worst scene in the film in terms of like
really like rapey, man. This ends like it's pretty bad look for Bond, to be fair.
Yeah, the only thing you could say is, well, it's to save 60,000 people, right? And even then he was surprised that actually like later on actually helped her change her mind, because you never see him explain by the way, Goldfinger's going to kill a shit ton of people, like
he probably said it right after he came, so
I think like
it's a bit
it's interesting. Like I had a new take on it actually. For this time when I was watching it for this podcast, like it's only on on one of the lines they say. It's like when she says, what would it take? How much would it take to like whatever
make you see things my way?
She's like a lot more than thanks. A lot more than you've got. Like maybe there's obviously an intended reading of that, but like maybe I also thought maybe she was talking about money, because she does she does say like the only reason she's in it for money. So like so I don't know, maybe.
Oh yeah, for sure. It wasn't just Dick that got her to change her mind, man. It was like probably double the money or whatever it took, for sure.
Do you reckon?
I thought, yeah.
It's like, look in the lost and found. You'll find 50 gold sovereigns in my briefcase.
Yeah, exactly.
On like, I don't know, if Cinema Sins is anything to go by, they
which
do
it isn't,
like say
anyway.
they do like make out as if that's what turns her around, but pre-weak source, I think.
Yeah,
and Bond basically rapes her anyway, so that's just that.
Yeah, we're meant to believe that she actually does like Sean Connery, but I don't know about that.
Yeah, there's like an she's actively fighting him not to do that. Yeah, not that good, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, the only saving grace is like the closing shot is her like she does wrap her arms around him, but don't know that's.
And the worst thing to say is this isn't the last time you see something like this as well. But it's not. This is probably the worst instance of it. But then it's like you even get to like a Timothy Dalton one where it's like. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't know, man. It's like this is as good as Goldfinger is as a film. There are some really like badly aged moments, and this is probably the worst of them.
This might actually be the worst aged Bond moment ever, really.
No, I think we probably do get worse ones, but I mean, It's
Nice
not like
to
we're
know.
ranking them, but yeah, I mean, we do get with that.
The existence. Yeah, the worst aged Bond scene is when you see.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we'll
we'll
let
talk
like
about Spectre later.
we'll let we'll let the
I have to
we'll
keep
let,
I have to keep my excitement in for that film for a few months.
Yeah.
we'll let others do the defaming work for
Yeah,
us.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, we'll highlight the issue, but yeah, we're not here to tear down Bond, man. We're not here to excuse it either, though. This is like really bad. Anyway, so then basically now we're getting into the swing of things. You know, this is like crunch time now. So the raid on Fort Knox begins with Pussy's pilots gassing the whole area.
Pussy Patrol.
basically.
You know,
Yeah.
one thing
Pussy Patrol.
one thing that's really funny. I don't know if you noticed. Henry definitely noticed at one point.
Oh
like,
yeah, I
like,
did. It's the countdown.
There's like the countdown. They actually miss out one when they're counting down. They're like 5,
Oh,
4,
yeah.
3, 2, 0. They don't
Yeah,
even save
no,
one during it.
Yeah, well, you know, it's the circus, man. They don't teach you much there, apart from how to fly a plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not doing a great deal for the blonde bimbo rep, are they? But you know. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, so all of them. You know what I really find interesting about this scene is because they all like play dead, and it's so obvious. And the first time you watch it, it looks comically like acted. They're all like falling down like sack of potatoes, and you're like, well, that looks like really fake. Like it's like. I know it's like 60s and you're like acting. I don't know, whatever limited resources, but
Well,
like,
they
you
are
do a better
acting,
job than
so-
that. Exactly. That's what makes it really good. Because the first time I remember as a
Meta
kid watching
acting.
it, I was thinking, this is like so obviously acting, and then it turns out that it is, and obviously if no one's like there next to them watching it. It's just from a distance, so it's enough to go, yep, they're down, and then when you realize later on, it's like that was all coordinated and like
Yeah.
it's brilliant. It
Oh,
just
no, the
adds
thing
to
is
the
that I love
brilliance
as
of
well the music in this
Yeah.
as well. It's got like some like
Yeah.
low military like march
Yeah,
music.
yep,
like
yep, yep,
yeah,
yep.
the
It's brilliant.
after these guys are down, they like the trucks start rolling in.
Yeah.
Start blowing
Yeah,
up the fence.
And the convoy goes past Felix later as well. You zoom in and it's like, oh,
Yeah, and then
he's down
that's
as
the
well.
first tip off to think like other than them falling down that way that like he doesn't know anything. Why is he here?
Yeah. Very cool, very cool. So they blow the gates. It will be dynamited, as Goldfinger says, and indeed it was. And then they drive in with the ambulance. The laser comes out of that and like
Just
lasers up the door, which is
just
very
want
cool.
to say
Yeah.
just want to say this is one of the only moments I remember from like the first time I watched it. Like when the laser came up again, I like got chills watching that when I was
Wow.
younger because it's like, oh, it's the laser again. It's like, wow.
Yeah, it's cool,
back
isn't it?
again. See, it is a practical thing, as Goldfinger says. So
Yeah.
It does have a purpose, which is cool.
yeah, one singular purpose other than slicing someone up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if he cooks like his, cooks his steaks with that thing.
Maybe.
The only way I can
He
get my
lights his
steaks perfectly
cigarettes with
done.
it,
Yeah.
Anyway, Goldfinger comes in a chopper with a bomb strapped to it, so that's pretty ballsy of him. And activates the bomb as well. So, that happens.
Yeah,
And then
man, like just the swag to enter in like Fort Knox the helicopter as well.
Exactly. Bond's handcuffed to Oddjob as well. He's marched into there as well. Anyway, so when the bomb's activated, then the Geiger counter wakes
Yeah,
up.
yeah, they bring him down into this vault behind me.
Oh yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Since
Yeah.
you mention it, obviously the crew in the film, like they weren't allowed to go inside Fort Knox
Yeah.
and
This
build
is another work of Ken Adams. So
yeah, and
Yeah.
so they weren't allowed to go inside because it's obviously security compromise. But they just basically estimated roughly what something like that would look like, and then the people at Fort Knox were like almost spooked out. But this is reportedly like they were almost spooked out how realistic they got it, like how bang on it's like they were. It was almost like a security risk where they were like, "Oh, has anyone been like sending them images or stuff?" It's like really interesting, like how accurately they actually managed to get it. So there you go, despite not being allowed
I
anyway.
didn't know that actually.
well, to be
Yeah.
fair, there's only so many ways to stall God. Like this is just I just love this this whole set really. Like I was gonna originally for like a joke put the Bond on the laser table behind me, but this is just like I just love this scene so
It's a
much.
beautiful
Like
set, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. Generally the backgrounds here are like my favorite kind of scenes really. Like
It's cool
this
that
is
you do
definitely
that.
a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And if the Spotify and for the Spotify listeners, sorry lads, you don't have a clue what we're talking about, but never mind. I'm
Yeah,
with you.
you just have to use your imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we're on Apple Podcasts as well, by the way. If anyone's interested in that,
Yeah.
so look
For
us up.
those intrigued.
Yep. So anyway, so Lysa and co, they all wake up and spring into action. Turns out they were faking the whole thing, which makes sense afterwards. Bond, in the meantime, is handcuffed to the bomb. So, it's like really game over for him, man.
Yeah, wink,
And
wink your way out this one.
the way Goldfinger says goodbye, Mr. Bond,
Hmm.
there's really like, there is really, the way he delivers that line really makes it sound like, yeah, like you're finished, mate. He delivers that with such confidence and like,
Yeah, such finality.
yeah, he's just like, he's so sure of it. It's like, yeah, this is a matter of fact now, goodbye. Like, I'm definitely never seeing you again. And, and then, sends him down in the lift, goes
As we'll
out.
learn to say with Sean Connery, never say never again.
Yeah.
One thing I
I
do
can't
like,
help myself.
one thing I do like about that scene is like there's an out more distant shot of the lift going down, and you see Goldfinger. He kind of turns away and then just walks on to the next objective like the Sigma he is. But
Yeah.
Oddjob kind of stays behind and stares at the lift going down, and I really like that.
Yeah. It's a nice shot, isn't it?
Mhm.
And
The whole scene is like eye candy, really.
it is. The whole film is, but especially the scene, and it's the sound. It's no wonder this won an Oscar. There's almost something very satisfying about the sounds going on there as well. There's not much music. The music is used very sparingly.
But
in
when it
this
is
scene.
used, it's very good.
Yeah. Um,
Well, it's another
Anyway.
scene that is that a lot of music is not really used, like
and
with the
this is
actual
when
fight.
this is when Goldfinger gets Sigma as fuck, man. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
the gunfire starts, right? So he like hits the panic button. First of all, he closes the door on his main man. He
Yeah.
gives them a death sentence, basically. Like, closes the vault, kill it, basically.
Yeah, he's literally like immediately also like switch teams like
Yeah,
take
they're like, he's
Yeah.
ready for this, man. He puts on like, turns his jacket inside out, and it's like some soldier on. He's got a hat ready. Shooting his own men, and he's like, oh yeah,
So
and then gives the dumb Americans orders, like, yeah, I'll get the kill, you do this, like, and they're so brain dead, they're like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, like this guy who looks suspiciously like Goldfinger.
With the accent and everything, and like the wrong gun and everything, but they're just like, oh yeah, like.
We're looking
it's
for a Mr.
incredible.
Goldfinger. You would have to know anyone. He's like, yeah, he went that way, gestures with his like solid gun.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is incredible. Like he's like unfazed by this. It's almost as if that was
Also,
like incredible.
I've just got to shout as well, like, yeah, because he guns down these Americans. Like, I don't think he even shoots 4 times and all 4 of them go down. But then, like, Oddjob, like, he doesn't give a shit that he's just been like locked in here. He throws the other guy off like the edge, like.
Yeah, Oddjob, man. He's dying for the cause, man. That is like ultimate loyalty. His own boss is like killed him basically, and he's still like, don't care. I'm still like,
This is where Oddjob is like. He's like this is where he like excels where Red Grant didn't, because Red Grant was tempted by the payment basically, and he like didn't care. He was a top tier assassin, but he was like he wasn't being paid enough basically, and then Oddjob doesn't care. He's like completely loyal to Goldfinger, and that's it. Like, and he throws the other guy off as well, who tries to stop
exactly,
him.
for being disloyal. I mean, maybe like Oddjob's the Terminator before they existed, but like maybe he like was on the same wavelength as Goldfinger. Maybe he also like, I have a feeling he might also have a love for gold so much that dying in Fort Knox might just be appropriate for him. And he also gets to beat the shit out of Bond while he's doing so. So
Yeah, I think this is what makes Oddjob the ultimate henchman, just his undying loyalty, man. Like, even though he's been like, sent off, he's like, doesn't care. He's like, he's
still
dying for the
smiling,
cause. Yeah, man. So anyway, we get this like epic fight basically between Bond versus Oddjob.
Yeah.
Again,
Bond managed to uncouple himself from the thing because Oddjob threw the guy with the keys over.
Yeah. The fight goes on for ages, and there's no music again, which is
you
really
just hear the bomb ticking. That's it.
Yeah, it's so ominous there, and it's like it builds the tension. It's just very smart because again, but even with more so than the car chase or the golf scene, there's no music there or here where there could have been and very traditionally would be, but they made, and credit to the director, I suppose, made a deliberate choice not to do that, to have it silent effectively. So then it's even more like, because you get all the clangs on the metal and you get the hum of the atomic bomb there, and it's like, it's amazing. And there's several stages to the fight, like you say. Oddjob tries to kill him with the hat, and then he ducks it, and then they have like he's punching him in the face, and Oddjob takes it and then slams him, and it's like throwing him around like a rag doll. And then there's a moment where Bond tries to pick up Oddjob's hat and use it against him, and Oddjob, like, visually, he's like he shits himself, It's
Yeah.
No, but he also is like, like, come on then, like.
Yeah. But it's great. The fight is so good because it's not like one or two things. It's like the dynamic has changed, and there's
Bond
not a
tries
word
everything,
spoken
man.
either. There's not a word spoken, so it's like, and Bond, he gets the wooden plank thing, and then the
like
metal rod, and it's like
it
all
breaks
these things.
literally. He tries to break his arm as well. He can't literally do anything. He's trying
Bond
everything.
gets the shit kicked out of him as well,
Yeah, one thing I really like in this, like, I also remember from when I first watched it, it was like when he throws the hat at, like, when he picks up like Thingy's Oddjob's hat, like, that is like the ultimate expectation subversion. Because when I saw it, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be, he's gonna get what he did to everyone else, and then but he dodges it, and then when I first saw it, I was like, what? And then I was like, wow, like, how's he gonna get out this? And then
well,
brilliant.
It's because Oddjob wasn't a perfect throw. He did sever a cable earlier, so
Yep. And it's great. The way he's dispatched is like fantastic as well,
Yeah, it takes a superhuman, like,
he's like the Terminator. It's a great analogy you made there, Henry. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, he's like the Terminator. Like, he can't be stopped, and then
Do you know?
Yeah.
Do you know, actually, the character and the actor maybe even equal in loyalty and dedication to getting the project done, because Mr. Sakata, who played Oddjob, actually got electrocuted when the thing touched the metal, and he didn't know it was like live thing, so he grabbed the thing and his hand basically got toasted or something, but like he got electrocuted, and then so that's like an actual, I don't know, scream or whatever you get out of him because of it. But that's just like the dedication. I don't know, he didn't like say cut or anything. He didn't take his hand off. He went through with it. So like,
that's amazing. I didn't know that. I knew about the stuntman from earlier from the bath, but I didn't know about Oddjob.
Is his stuntman,
Yeah,
people got, like, anyway, like
have you two ever given yourselves an electric shock, by the way?
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, yeah, my first electric shock. Maybe Henry might remember, but
I tricked him into it.
Yeah, I remember. But have you? I've only ever given myself an electric shock once, and it was like a really dumb way, man. Like it's I never get to tell this story, so this is a good time to do it. I was at work, and we had obviously we have like under the office desks, you have the extension cords and stuff, right? And I was plugging in a phone charger, but it was a really dodgy, shitty, like Chinese one, whatever. And I plugged it in, and the casing wasn't properly attached to the front bit where the prongs were, right? So like I took off, so I pulled out what I thought was the charger, but I only pulled off the cap, like the top bit, and it was like, oh, okay. And then I was obviously idiotic. You can't be smart and electrocute yourself, right? So I went to grab the rest, and then I like directly grabbed onto the metal prong, and then it I got like an electric shock. I was like, oh, like that, man. I was like, and no one realized what was going on. I was like, oh, like that, man. And I eventually let go, but it was like, oh, it was like, and this happened a couple of years ago. And I was like, wow, man, I got through life without electrocuting myself until now, So that's my story.
2 instances for me. I literally unscrewed a light bulb and I was like, yeah, let's see what happens. I like, shock stuff like that. Another time in science, man, I was so bored with my mate. With shout to Stuart because he was in it with me, man. I just because we were like literally chemistry, it was boring us to death. Got a pair of scissors, stuck it in the outlet, turned it on to see if it would kill me. Nothing happened.
Yeah, they were doing that in my class as well. They were like, pouring water over it and then sticking their hands against it and turning it on and stuff. But
Yeah, man. What science class does to people, man. But anyway, yeah, Tom, with your
science,
case,
like I
you
said,
might as well
Henry,
tell the
for
story.
the keen listeners of this show, that's basically where my sore interest was born, in chemistry class as well. That's where it was introduced to
Yeah.
me. So
Yeah, a lot of stuff happened in chemistry class. Stu also
And-
knows what happened in chemistry class, but I won't tell
yeah,
you.
man. Chemistry is the days, man. There you go. Anyway, back to Goldfinger. So yeah, Odd Jobs bought it. You know what I like as well, because like so often with Bond, he'll give like it's like a theme, right? Makes a joke at the end of someone dying. But I don't know if this is intentional or not, but I think for his greatest adversaries, he has respect enough not to make a joke, because he did that with Red Grant, and then he doesn't say anything about Oddjob either, right?
Yeah, did he say anything about Doctor No? I
No,
don't
he
know.
didn't.
No, I don't think he got the
But they
chance.
probably hadn't got to that point yet.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was established after that, but still, I think that's like worth commenting on.
Actually, it was established before that because he was like, "Oh, I think they're on their way to a funeral with the three blind mice."
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. Actually, good
True.
point. Good point, Tom.
Well, yeah, he shows restraint, like with Doctor No first, or maybe he just couldn't think of anything.
No, I think he was too rushed for time there. He was like,
Yeah,
get the fuck out.
yeah. They forgot to write that bit in the script. But anyway,
Well, here as well. I mean, he's under the cosh here again. So Bond.
Yeah.
What I find funny here is he starts using 2 bars of gold as a hammer. It's like the most like glamorous thing being used in the most primitive form, like a caveman. Trying to open a box with like 2 rocks. Effectively.
Yeah, he's barely trying though. That's one thing I will
True,
say.
yeah.
Like, he's not doing that like his life was on the line.
Anyway, so the soldiers come come to the rescue. One of the Chinese guys is like crushed behind the vault door, which is always quite neat.
Yeah. They've got This is like I think that happens in a lot of Bond films. The bomb's got 10 seconds left to go. They go down the stairs for like 10 years. Oh, 2 seconds have passed. Like.
And
I
can I just say, the 7-year-old me. This is a poignant memory of mine. I remember physically sweating watching this scene. I was physically sweating. The 7-year-old James, man, was like, like, whoa, I was like, this really had me. I didn't know if he was going to die, what was going to happen. I was like terrified, man. And then the fact that and Bond is also like, he doesn't know what to do. He's got this,
trying to like
all these circuits in front of him, and he's like, doesn't know what to do. And you're just like, oh, he's like trying to, but if he does the wrong thing, they're all finished, So he's like, doesn't know what to do. And then, like, the guy comes and, like, switches it off, and it's obviously stopped in 007.
Like, I don't know if anyone's ever played, like, it's like, if you've ever played Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, like a tenth of what this feels like, like, having never defused a real bomb myself.
So good, man. And it's like, and then the fact it stops on 007, and it's just, like, the relief, and it's like, because it's almost like, it reminds you that you're watching a film almost, because by that point, I don't know, like for me, I was so gripped in it. Not even on my first viewing, but even beyond that, I was just like, it's just, even when even watching it, for this show, I was so like, I was still like tense. You still like, it still reels you in. I've seen it so many times, but it's still like, it still has a way of like drawing you in. It's brilliant, It's fantastic. It's what makes it such a great film. And the fact that it is cringe and cliche that they stop it on 007, but it's the first time they did it, and they do it in like a plausible way, and it's like, it's not, at the time, it's like, it's really good and clever, and it's like, unfortunately with all the parodies and stuff, that's just probably seen as cringe by like a modern viewer, but I think for me it's great.
Yeah, back then
it's good they don't do it again. I
see what you did there.
Yeah, and they don't do it again, which is good. But like, I think
they do it on different numbers.
Time to do it.
Yeah, Bond's a prime bomb diffuser. By the time he does it in a later film, which Tom was a fan of. But anyway.
Yeah.
I
must say, I was gonna say like, I second what James was saying. Like, I was also on the edge of my seat when I was watching this for the first time. Like, and then like, I remember like the bit where, I mean, now it's like so silly, like these guards have like the worst aim ever, but when I saw like one of them stop and like in the background notice James Bond slowly pull his gun out and then he gets shot, and like I was like, wow.
Yeah, there's even that. It's brilliant.
And this guy, like, Bond just like, he's like acting cool about it afterwards. And the guy, like, who actually, like, it wasn't Light, it was just some random, like, a technician they probably sent down there. Like, he's like just like kind of pissed off no one's giving him any credit in the background. Like, yeah.
Right, yeah. Anyway, so then we're basically, the film's over, right? Bond is like, going for a dinner with the president, and Felix
lunch at
like
the White
sees him
House.
off and they all salute him, and he's in the plane, and it's like, it's all good now. But no.
The first
This-
time I saw this, man.
This is the best fourth act ever, man. Like, this is so good. So good. Even though, I don't know, though, because we got it with Rosa Klebb, and then it was great as well. But I think this one is even more... You know why? Because I think both Rosa Klebb and Goldfinger coming out is, like, amazing. But I think what makes Goldfinger's more effective is because of the tension you've just been released from. The relief. You've just been from... They've just
You think it's
brought you
all
the
over,
way up here, and then they like, okay, you're back. You're safe now.
Yeah, you got the
Whereas
chill
with
music.
Rosa Klebb,
Like,
it was like, there wasn't
And-
that height of tension was never there. So the come down is less. Whereas now it's like you've had a big come
and
down.
Bond's he's literally relaxing in a private jet, about
Yeah,
to
it's
go
literally
sleep
like,
with
we've got drinks for you, and we've got drinks for 3, and it's like, who are the other 2? There are no other 2, and it's like, oh great, I'm laughing.
Yeah, and unintentionally,
is like
he's actually counted correctly.
this was
Yeah.
like this was like the thing that, like, when my friend was watching it was great to hear. It's great to hear, like, first time reactions. Like, when Goldfinger pops, I was like, oh shit, and then I was just like, yeah, it's Goldfinger.
Yeah.
And then the thing is, I think the difference between this and Rosa Klebb is, like, when Goldfinger appears, it's like, wow, it's just one moment you see him there, and it's like, oh wow, he's gonna kill him. And then, but with Rosa Klebb, you kind of, it's like a creeping thing. You like see her come back
Does
in the
he know?
background, like she enters through the door and then quietly tries to walk off. But it's two different. They're very similar but very different at the same time.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Bond doesn't
like
know
how
who
they
Klebb
try
is.
build it up. Yeah, and it's great. Like, I think they're both really great. I do personally like this one more, but actually,
yeah.
there's a little thing in the back. Goldfinger pops through, and you don't notice it because the whole thing is like Goldfinger being there. But there's actually like a kind of one of those Chinese guards stood behind him in the background, like, and
so
it's kind of yeah, like so I think maybe in an original, like, draft of this scene, like, Goldfinger was meant to have one of them, like, helping him out or whatever, but if the fight broke out, but that must have been cut for, like, running time or something, I'm not sure, but, like, you do get a really brief glimpse of someone else waiting there, and then that's it, the curtain. But it's Goldfinger, it doesn't take, and he's got a golden gun as well, which it's just the cherry on top for his character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like,
What
you've
I
interfered with my plans for the last time, Mr. Bond. He's like
What
proper
I love
pissed
about this
off at him.
scene is not just like the impact of, like, his presence just suddenly coming out, like, bang, it's him, like, fuck, But Bond's reaction is priceless, man. He doesn't give it. He's now, the tables have turned. Goldfinger's the desperate one, and Bond is like the one in control. And Bond just goes,
Oh, I love
"Oh
this
well,
bit.
congratulations on your promotion, Goldfinger.
So
You
you
having
also
lunch
come
at
to
the White House too?"
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. Like, in the face of death, he's just like spitting in his face. Like, it's so funny, man. And anyways, they have a brief fight, which is good.
Yeah,
And
'cause
the way Bond throws them off is so good. Because Bond goes, oh, where's Pussy then? And then Goldfinger just looks away for a second, and Bond takes
because
that
he
second,
gestures with
it's
his
on.
gun, and then he just goes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
didn't see that one coming. Yeah, he's not professional, as you can see.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
he's not used to dispatching of
Goldfinger
people
gets
with
sucked out of the plane in
gun.
pretty undignified fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as
Bond
well. I
goes-
don't know what. I mean, yeah, he did, blow a hole in the, the cabin with it, which makes the pressure go down. But, like, how was he making sure that, like, Pussy Galore was actually, like, flying the plane like a normal person? Like, instead of, like, trying to, like, dive it to make Goldfinger fall over or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't really know. Like, you get the impression she might be tied to the controls or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a bit of a strange one, but Bond goes over, finds her there, and he goes, she goes, oh, where's Goldfinger? He's playing his golden harp, so that's quite
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. And as well, like, yeah, you get like Lighter and his, his chaps like back at the airport. They're like,
Yeah.
watching like, you know, the thing like the dramatic music going down there, like, oh yeah, we shouldn't have booked him on Ryanair or whatever. And then, like,
Spirit
and then
Airline.
like you see the other like dot pop off, and it's just like, oh, it's probably fine, you know,
Yeah.
unless it's a second piece of the plane that's fallen
Yeah,
off.
that's right. So they
Yeah,
go, they
no,
go find her, and
yeah.
then it's like, oh, you know, he's under the parachute. It's like, oh, no time to be rescued. Bang, you know. It's like gets the girl in the end, and
And
that's it.
I love it. Like I love this bit because like the Americans, the CIA are flying over to look for him, and he just doesn't care. He's like,
Doesn't
he's
care,
gonna
yeah.
make them. He's gonna make them waste like the whole afternoon or whatever looking for him, and he won't like show them. That's all he cares about. And
Did that in Doctor
yeah.
No as well, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's like a nice little reprise of that, which I like. It's funny.
Yeah, it's not the last time he does it either. I mean,
Yep.
that's it really.
That's Goldfinger, ladies and gentlemen. It's a bit of a longer episode, but it's not over yet. We've got our own Goldfinger-esque fourth act where we're going to do our rankings now.
Exactly.
So let's get straight into it. So Bond actor still, of course, Sean Connery.
This film has just elevated him even more, you know.
Yep.
Best performance so far, I think.
Current Bond girl rankings: number 1, Honey Rider; number 2, Tatiana. Where are we going to put Honor Blackman's Pussy Galore?
You know, I want to put Tatiana above Honey Rider. I still think she should go above Pussy
Nah,
Galore.
you're having a laugh, mate.
No, man.
What do you think, Tom?
It's so, I can't
I
get
think-
over the name either, and you know, like she doesn't.
I think Honey Rider, Pussy Galore is not going first for me.
I think for me, she's behind Tatiana and Honey Rider. Like the first two, like they. The thing is with Honey Rider, she had backstory that was believable and stuff,
Mhm.
and the way she acted it was more believable. Whereas Pussy,
Mhm.
it may not be her fault, but like the whole
Mhm.
plot basically hinges on her being attracted to Bond, and that just
Mm.
obvious
Yeah,
the way
it's-
it's shot is just
Mm.
falls
yeah,
apart.
when it
in
comes to
my
that really
eyes.
uncomfortable scene. So you're in agreement with me, Tom, here.
I
You put
think,
a third. You put a third as well.
Yep.
Okay, we're
I know
unanimous.
for the being for the iconic stuff, but then it's iconic in a really bad way. as
Yeah,
well when it
it's
comes
like
to
not
that
in a
scene.
good way. Yeah, I don't know why her character's so beloved by the Bond fan base, because I think it's kind of her
Forcing him to
character,
sweep
if
under the rug
anything,
and
is
then
like an indictment of like the worst parts of Bond, really, if anything. So yeah, okay.
No
I thought
fault
there'd
to
be a
Honor
bit more of a
Blackman
protest there,
herself,
but it
but
turns out we're all in agreement. So
Yeah.
that's a rare occasion. So
but as well though, to give Honor Blackman credit, it's not really her fault. It's more the writing, and she has some good back and forth with Bond as well. Like knock him down a couple pegs at least sometimes.
yeah,
know,
that's true.
They've a good
But
bit
I
of
think just the
backstory.
fact that the problem, yeah, it's not her fault because she does like get the upper hand on him a lot, but then just turned up being basically raped and then being used to but yeah, it's yeah, not great.
This is more of a gripe with the writers, not with her. So
Oh yeah, absolutely.
just wanna mention that. But anyway,
Okay, so the villain, number 1, Dr. No; number 2, Rosa Klebb; Goldfinger, got to be number 1, right?
it has to be number one. Like
Yeah.
when you are, I mean, also this was the case with Doctor No, but if you're like elite enough to be the title of your own film, like that's
Mhm.
pretty good.
Right. Yeah, I think
Yeah, like,
we've
the
pretty much
thing I
said
like-
everything we can say about Goldfinger. He's just
Sigma quote generator, man.
yeah, an amazing villain. Really set the standard. One of the best movie villains of all time,
film-
probably.
Yeah, like the thing is about him is like he's so. That's why this is my little head like theory about like why this is the only film like of Sean Connery's tenure
Yeah, that doesn't.
that's not Spectre rated. It's 'cause
Carries entirely on his
Goldfinger's-
shoulders, yeah.
Yeah, he's so Sigma. Like he doesn't need to be part of
owns Spectre.
Spectre.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't need to be part of Spectre to live out his own
Yeah.
like ambitions.
Live
and
out his
stuff.
dreams, yeah. Well,
Okay,
yeah,
so
well,
the next,
there's no debate there, so he is at the top.
yep, the next category is henchman. Number 1, Red Grant. We've got to put Oddjob up against him. Now, for me, Oddjob has to go first.
Yeah, I'd probably agree.
But that is no
Really?
slight on Red Grant. They'll end up, probably top 5 by the end, I think.
Yeah.
So
Because
I personally like Red Grant more because he's like
wow,
I don't see
you
why.
mean
but I
that
don't
he's more of a character, I guess, because he speaks.
you'd put Red
He-
Grant above Oddjob.
Yeah, well, I like Oddjob. Like he's great in loyalty. He like outclasses Red Grant by a million. But thing is with Red Grant is like he basically is just single-handedly like the entire threat of From Russia with Love towards Bond, whereas like Oddjob's great and he's like perfect in his role, but he's just one of the kind of parts of it. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing because a henchman shouldn't be the whole threat of a film towards Bond, but Red Grant plays it so well that he is basically the threat in From Russia with Love towards
Yeah.
Bond.
That's a good argument.
That's
That's a good
quite, that's
argument.
actually that's maybe reconsider actually.
No,
That is
I'm not reconsidering. I mean,
Yeah, but
it's
you
an
are one
easy
person.
decision for me to put Oddjob above Red Grant, but they're both like exceptional.
Yeah. This is the thing though as well though, because again, Oddjob is probably he's definitely better known than Red Grant, but the fact that even if you have Red Grant on his own, he is a lot more resourceful. Like he doesn't have to be told what to do. He fooled James Bond into thinking he's a literal agent until
Yep.
he makes the mistake of ordering the wrong wine. But
He thinks on his feet, man. He really like carries the team for like lots of that film, more or less. So
but
it's I don't.
if we're strictly
Huh?
speaking as a henchman,
As a head, but that really comes down to personal choice. Where if you think it's a good thing that a henchman like is like more than a henchman or not, like what do you think?
because I
Do
think it's
you-
because of the fact when you say like Bond the henchman, you think Oddjob.
I think
And
it's just more
he is
iconic.
literally like
It's not Red
henchman's
Grant's
the
fault.
T. There is
Yeah.
no question of his loyalty. Goes down to the last thing. I would still have to put him above Red Grant, but Red Grant is still he's going to be near the top anyway, regardless. It's like
And I think a
these are
good way
two
to look at
elite
these
henchmen.
rankings for henchmen at least is who would you rather was your henchman? Who would you rather have on your side? And you would go with Oddjob.
No,
I'd say
I think
I'd say
Oddjob might
Red
be a bit more
Grant,
difficult to
honestly.
work with because
No, Red Grant could be bought off, man. You know you've got Oddjob for like.
Yeah,
for-
if I wasn't, could you imagine imagine if Goldfinger had Red Grant who couldn't be bought off basically.
The thing
Yeah,
is,
that's the thing. Red Grant can be bought. He's a mercenary.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Goldfinger's literally like minted, man. He could pay him $1 million a year if he wanted.
that's due to that's due to Spectre being presumably like miserly with their
Brokies.
salaries and stuff. Not really due to Red Grant himself. That's how I always interpreted it. But like the thing is with Red Grant, if I was like a villain, whatever, I'd like have him because he's more of like multi-tool or whatever who can like he can do the lots of stuff basically rather and no, not to slight Oddjob, but he can't speak. So like relaying
Oh,
instructions.
nor does Red Grant for most of the film, to be fair.
Yeah, but he can, and he has to blag his way on the train. So
Yeah, this is the thing though. This is the thing that's
so
happened
what? When we
multiple
come to
times. It's like,
T, Oddjob's better T because T he can't clap. You know, it's just, I don't know.
well, speaking is
Well.
more important than clapping. Well, this is the thing. It's like with Doctor No and Rosaclip. They're both extremely close, like in terms of villains. And
I'll
it's-
yield to like Oddjob, but yeah.
I think
they're
what
both
the
very,
thing with
very
Oddjob is he's just more famous. He's better known as well. I think that Red Grant is like
helps.
not because of any lacking of his part. It's just Oddjob's part, just a great part of a great film. Whereas Red Grant is more like the highlight of a more of an average film. That's what I think. Also doesn't help.
From Russia with Love
I
average to
wouldn't
be.
say it's
Oh, yeah.
wouldn't say it's average, but it's just more like highly developed in a niche kind of way.
You might
That's
find
why-
you might find a blonde man coming into your room at night to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the mirror every day. Yeah. Anyway, so the vehicle. Obviously, Aston Martin DB5 is our first entry, so that goes in at number one.
Minus the two kind of like forgettable ones in the
Yeah,
previous
yeah,
ones.
we're not counting.
Yeah.
Not counting that random blue car. For that back projection, it gets struck off the list.
M still Bernard Lee. Nothing really to add there. Q Desmond Llewellyn just reinforced his status as number one. Money Penny number one as well in her category. Lois Maxwell. The Ally / Felix Leiter. We have number one Quarrel and Leiter from Doctor No. Number two Karen Bay. Where we're putting Felix Leiter and Goldfinger.
Maybe I'll put him second.
Really?
Yeah, because he's like, I don't know. He's like fooled constantly throughout this. Really, like they only really
Yeah,
I mean, unless there's like, the only points you can take from this is if you're like making fun of Americans, which I do, but no offense to my American listeners, but it's a British pastime, as well as the French. But as well, like, I don't know really. Like when of all of these guys I want to have as my ally, Quarrel's like probably the most useful of them all, and he's like, as well as the other Felix Leiter is just there
But
with
what about Karen Bay? You wouldn't put him. You'd put him above Karen Bay.
put him below if you want. I don't really care too much for this Felix Leiter.
What would you do, Tom?
I'd put him third because really an ally's supposed to be useful, and Felix is just the butt of jokes.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
He's useless, man. He just take his lunch break at KFC. Doesn't think the Bond's here. He sent the tracker all this way. It stopped working, and it's this guy who doesn't speak, who looks mysteriously like someone who is like a hired muscle. It looks like nothing's nothing dodgy's going on here. I'm just gonna go back, like my family bucket again.
He's not even the one who like diffuses the bomb. It's just like some faceless
Yeah, guy.
specialist, and that's it. Like I think he goes third for me.
I think he does go third, and it's not really. He's not bad, but I think the other two are quite strong. So okay, the gadgets. So right now we have number 1, the attaché case, and number 2, the Walther PPK. So
This is the thing
Bond's
that I hate
gadget
to
is
say.
basically the Aston Martin.
The thing is that I really hate you can't really call the Aston Martin a gadget
No, you
itself.
can't. It's a vehicle. Maybe we can put the Homer in here.
Yeah, the Homer device, because that is pretty like crazy for the time, if you can
Was it?
imagine.
Should we put
Well,
it?
I mean, like
What?
Second then?
the fact
What
that it's built
about-
in with radar and everything, like for that distance in that size, like.
What about Odd Job's bowler hat or the laser?
Ooh,
The
yeah, because
laser
Bond
one.
does use it as well. Okay,
Yeah,
now you're talking. That's a good suggestion. Well, then I think either way it would go second then.
Well, we're going with the laser, the hat, or
The hat. It's got to be the hat.
gadget.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I guess it is a gadget.
Yes.
The laser is responsible for like one of the most iconic scenes of all
Yeah,
time.
but Bond doesn't use a laser.
Yeah, exactly.
Does it have to be used by Bond though? It can it?
Yes.
I think it should be, yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
should-
go gadget. Not bowler
So
hat.
where does
but-
Oddjob's hat that go then? I think second then, right? Below the attaché case, above the Wolf PPK.
Yeah, probably. Tashi case
Yeah.
is just so good. It got to be mentioned in 2 films.
Oh yeah, it's so cool.
Actually, in 3, if you count on the Majesty's Secret Service.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Yeah, I never put
James,
that two
you're a
and two
bit of a
together.
rookie if you don't remember this, but anyway.
Oh shit, no I don't. Okay, well we'll get there soon anyway. Okay, theme song number 1, the James Bond theme. Number 2, From Russia with Love. Where we're putting Goldfinger by Shirley
This is
Bassey.
contender for number 1, really. But
I just want to shout out I need. Did either of you watch that Alan Partridge episode yet?
not yet.
Not yet.
There's a bit where he like sings the Goldfinger theme to himself. So I've just got to shout that out for all my Partridge fans out there.
Yeah, you can even link it in the video if you really want.
I don't know. I think it has to go second, but it is good.
Yeah, I might have to agree with that because it's the Bond theme is just better, I think.
Goldfinger. It is the way she delivers it, like only gold. Like at the end.
But no, but at the end gets a bit like repetitive, but it just says, yeah, he loves gold a lot, and it's
True.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
feeling
it's
this
a
chap is
it's
a
a
fan
strong
of
second.
gold.
It's a strong
Yeah.
second.
But my favorite bit is the thing that I referenced already. The fact they say he's got the Midas touch, which is
That
actually
is.
lived out in this film. Literally a real life Midas, more or less.
Okay, so we have number 1, the James Bond theme. Number 2, Goldfinger. Number 3, From Russia with Love. We're all in agreement there, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Wait, can you say that again?
Number 1, the James Bond theme. Number 2, Goldfinger. Number 3, From Russia with Love for the themes. Okay. Then we have the opening. So our current opening is only From Russia with Love at number 1. So the opening from this. So
Goes
the opening
above.
from Russia with Love, just to jog the memory, is Grant taking down the fake Bond in training.
Yeah.
which is good, but I think this one's
Good,
probably-
but it also started a really annoying trend of Bond's dead in the intro.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's,
So I
it's not
think
for
this
Russia
one-
Love's fault. It's just the fact
And this
that
one's
it's
amazing. The music and just the sweatsuit and everything has to go number one, right?
The From Russia with Love one is good, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
Because it's just a set of Red Grant, you know. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Okay, so number one, Goldfinger. Number two, From Russia with Love. Now we have the millionth classic category, the Sigma moment. Number one, we have well, actually, so far we've just had Sigma males themselves already. Number one, we have Red Grant, and number two, Dr. No. I think.
with their respective quotes, may we say.
What were the respective quotes? Remind me.
Well, Red Grant, I mean, he
Mhm.
had quite a few, but it's the fact that the first one will kill you, not even
Oh,
the
yeah.
second. No, not the second, not even the third.
And
Not
Dr.
until you
No's
kiss my foot.
was.
$1 million,
Still-
Mr. Bond.
Oh yeah. Okay.
How can
Oh
you
no, I
forget?
think it was the one where he was like, on which side of the glass you are, wasn't it?
No.
Yes.
That's just an addition. But I nominated $1 million because it's literally an instant flex. First thing you say.
And we have Goldfinger, obviously, as the Sigma male here, and I think his most Sigma quote has to be,
I
"I own the
The
club."
club,
That's
yeah.
like that's literally like Bruce
Literally,
Wayne. I bought the bank, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
literally.
right up there. I think that has to go number one,
Maybe
right?
yeah. Maybe Zack
That
Snyder's a
would've,
Goldfinger fan. He
inspired-
maybe took a leaf out of that book. Anyway,
Go on, Tom.
Yeah. I said that would have inspired the Bruce Wayne moment. I
Possibly,
think,
yeah,
like,
possibly. I wouldn't be surprised.
well, to be fair, Bruce Wayne, like just being a it
Yeah.
just maybe it was just something that spawned independently. But anyway.
Okay, so Goldfinger, I own the club at number one, and I would be. Actually, I'm not going to say that, but I think that will end up being very high by the end.
No, I think number
We've
one.
had some strong Sigmas though so far in this franchise, haven't we?
Yeah. Got some very strong ones coming up as well.
Okay, and then ranking the
think
films
Mr. Witness-
themselves. At the moment, we have number one, Dr. No, number two, From Russia with Love, very close. Goldfinger, number one,
Number
right? Has to be.
This isn't really a debate again.
Yeah.
Unlike last time, of which I'm still salty.
Person, yeah, it is going number one, but my personal preferences would lean elsewhere. But I'm not gonna elaborate any further. than
You telling me you'd rather watch Doctor No?
that. I don't know. I different things to it appeal to different things in it appeal to me personally more, but I know that doesn't hold any water for
It's
like
the
the
sea
wider
life.
audience.
Get him.
No, no, like I just like the detective stuff more in it, and obviously I like the location more, and I like it's more down to earth for me. But that's just my opinion. I know the quality and everything in this film is like higher, so
Well,
it's
as
gonna
much as
be.
I respect everyone's opinion, even if they're wrong.
I think Goldfinger being number one here, and I don't know. We've all obviously done our own private predictions, so we'll see where we have at the end. But I would be surprised if any of us didn't have Goldfinger in their top five, probably even top three. For my well, we've already So
Well,
I
we'll
think-
go on to.
I think it will end up for the. Well, I'll let you in on my prediction a little bit. It's in my top three for our prediction. It's in my top two actually. So I think, or it's certainly top three. Actually, I need to check them again.
Well,
yeah, it's my
I
top
did
three.
I did my prediction based off how I thought the films would end up
That's kind of the
between
point.
the three
but-
of us, not like my
Mhm.
my own personal one. So like my personal one would look probably very different from how
Really?
you're gonna put stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I actually
very
personally think the
different,
original
but-
Casino Royale's the best.
Hmm.
The Rock is number one.
So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That was Goldfinger. It's been a bit of a long episode, but it's a film certainly worthy of that. So final words from you guys.
Tom?
Goldfinger loves only gold, and so does the wider audience, it seems. So this film,
And it's certainly
Thumbs
not
up.
the last Bond film that has gold
Yeah.
in its title. So
Yeah,
even
exactly.
though it's
Well,
intrinsic
if I have to say one last thing on this, if anything, by the adjustment for inflation stats say about these about the box office and budget and so on and so forth. Invest in some gold, ladies and gentlemen.
Not financial advice. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week with Thunderball, of course. So riding off the coattails of this film. So until then, obviously do your thing. Like leave us some nice comments and reviews and stuff, and spread the word, of course, because we're going to be here for a long time reviewing these Bond films. So if you know another Bond fan, get them involved, and we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.